Josh Engelman. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a man sitting at a table wearing a pink shirt. Adam Scher on the opposite side of me. This is the Stokastic MLB Deeper Dive. 13-game slate, Tuesday, July 26th. Going to be a good one, brought to you by Odd Shopper. Adam, what's up?
Yeah, how's it going, man? Glad you cleared some things up to start the show.
Had to let everybody know. I was going to go Zimzer. Wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go, but here we are. I'm a he, him. That's probably interesting to you, given your proclivity for Eric's mouth and my shirt.
Don't forget, I complimented your hair, too.
Oh, even better. Even better. 13-game slate today. How'd it go for you yesterday? Because, well, I didn't like having a lot of Sean Manaea after I saw the Grand Slam, and it didn't get any better after that.
Yeah, pretty close to even yesterday. I didn't have the Tigers. I had like 30-something% Manaea. I still had 3% of my teams finish in the top 1%, but nothing exciting.
Okay. Yeah, not the best day when I saw the Tigers going crazy. That was just an immediate, well, today's over, particularly when I couldn't get a real crunch in and jammed not the Tigers, which is the key piece of all of it. Oh, man. We got a lot to talk about. We got plenty of time to get through it. I have barely looked at this slate at this point. I do have all of my data and everything ready to go. You were on the strategy show this morning, I assume?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so you know what's going on here. What's the slate look like? If you had to sum up this slate in one word in comparison to what we've seen recently, what would it be?
In one word?
Sure.
Pitching?
I mean, you could use two or something if you want.
Opposite of yesterday?
Okay, that's what we're looking for here. So I'm ready to dive in if you are. What? That's interesting. I tried to copy something and it just put the word copy in my Excel sheet underlined. That's a new one. Anyway, let's get to your Orioles. We'll kick this one off first, though. Everybody, hit that like button. How many people do we have right now? 197. We'll call it 200. Hit that like button. We have some competition on our hands now. I believe Mitch? I can't remember that idiot's name. New fantasy site coming soon from people that you don't need to listen to. So we got to step up our like game. We don't want them to catch us.
Anybody taking my head-to-heads, check out his content going forward.
Yeah. Joke-tastic, baby. Best site ever. Orioles and Rays. 3.3 run implied total for the O's, 4.3 for the Rays. Spencer Watkins going for Baltimore. Shane McClanahan going for Tampa. McClanahan pulling 30-something% ownership as of right now. He is basically tied for second in ownership on the day. A little bit behind Aaron Nola, who he is $300 more expensive than. And he's basically tied with Spencer Strider in ownership. Are you willing to go to Shane McClanahan against your Orioles, or are you going to talk to me about how the Orioles are some undervalued thing today?
No, I mean, McClanahan's great. I'm actually kind of surprised that he's getting less ownership on DraftKings than Nola. We do have Nola projected higher. That seems to kind of be the consensus. So, I guess I shouldn't say I'm surprised we have Nola projected for more ownership. I'm surprised that Nola actually projects a little bit better. But
I have McClanahan, but none of that shit worked out for me yesterday, so I'll just shut up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, obviously I'm just going to use the data. It's going to be right a lot more frequently than my brain. But my assumption was that McClanahan would be projected higher. He's got the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 35.7%. It's like 75, 80 degrees in Baltimore, so it's not great hitting weather. It's still not Tropicana Fields. That is a downgrade for him. But really, really, really good pitcher. And I think one way or the other, kind of just nitpicking between him and Nola.
Yeah. I mean, I've got both guys north of 20 fantasy points. That's just going to be really good no matter what. But I have McClanahan by about 1.5. Doesn't really change much for me. They both look really good today. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different for Nola. Matchup's just going to be a little bit different. But
Josh, are you going to church later?
Am I going to church later? Now, unless somebody died or I got to go to a wedding, those are really the only two ways that I end up in a church. Normally, I just spontaneously combust when I walk in there. No. I mean, this is like a $10 V-neck T-shirt. I'm not exactly dressed to the nines here.
You didn't get.
We can't all buy multiple $100 palm tree T-shirts, man. Any Watkins?
No Watkins. I mean, I talked about it this morning. He's been pitching better lately, and the Orioles have had success kind of turning not very good pitchers into serviceable pitchers. But from a DFS standpoint, you're still not going to roster him, and he's still likely one of the worst pitchers on the slate. So perfectly fine to take bats against. I don't see any reason to get to him.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about bats in this spot here, because I can't imagine we're looking at the Orioles. Is this a day where you want to get on the opposite side of McClanahan? This doesn't feel like a day where you're pitching the Orioles bats.
Yeah, I don't have any. I can't pitch the Orioles bats here.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. I assumed you were going to be like, well, about the Orioles. But what about the Rays here? They are 4th in ownership. We have them 11th in our top stack tool, 8th in value. And when you get those two around the top 10, it tends to push people up a little bit because you kind of get the best of both worlds. Do you see Tampa as a team you want to get to? The run total doesn't seem all that appealing.
Yeah, I think they're okay. Kind of like I was saying about Watkins, he has been pitching better recently, but you're still talking about major league pitchers across the board. So he's still one of the weaker pitchers on the slate. Overall this year, only a 12.5% strikeout percentage against lefties, 14.4 against righties. He has given up more power to right-handed hitters, 261 expected ISO there compared to only 125 to lefties. So it makes a Rosarena look good. Brandon Lau always is going to look good. And then, there is some value to be had here, but overall it's a pretty weak offense. So I think kind of just a middle of the road stack for me.
Yeah, I don't have much to add here. They're fine. I'll have some Rays. I don't think that'll be all that interesting or appealing, but they're going to show up in, I don't know, probably 4 to 5% of my lineups, and I won't think about them unless they go absolutely crazy. I'd like to target against Watkins because he's not good, but I don't think it really matters here today. I'm a little surprised to see the Rays run total be as low as it is. Is that just Baltimore?
What'd you say?
Is that just the park? Is that what's happening here?
It's not hot today. Obviously the park does kill right-handed power now. Baltimore's got a good bullpen behind Watkins. The Rays lineup is watered down.
Yeah, I mean the ass end of that lineup not ideal. I'm a little surprised
also,
to see
and kind of just back to what I was saying, where there's a non-zero chance that Watkins is better going forward than he has been. He's put together 4 straight starts that were good, going at least 5 innings in all of them, no more than 1 earned run. Again, I'm not saying like you're looking at those games and saying like, oh, that's who he is. We have a longer track record of him not being good, but Baltimore has done a good job of turning guys like him around recently.
Anything else you want to talk about here from this game?
Nope.
I just read Adam owns many leather-bound books. I assume you don't smell like rich mahogany.
Rich mahogany.
Yeah. Fuck wood. 3.6 run implied total for the Phillies, 3.7 for the Braves. We have a ton to talk about here. Well, at least from a pitching perspective. Aaron Nola, as we mentioned, going for the Phillies. Spencer Strider, as I mentioned, going for Atlanta. Both of these guys owned in the 30s. Strider coming in $1,300 cheaper than Nola. Who would you rather start with here? Because is it just simply like, I'm going to play a bunch of Nola, I'm going to play a bunch of Strider, and I don't really care what comes out of that? Or do you have like an actual lean of guys that you would prefer here?
I think I'm going to play a lot of both. I lean towards Strider just because he's less expensive. The Phillies lineup isn't as dangerous as the Braves lineup, and Strider's got the highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 37.5%, 2.43 xFIP this year. I mean, Nola obviously is really, really good as well. 28% strikeout percentage, 2.95 xFIP. So, again, just 2 top-end pitchers I'm going to get a lot of. But we, for whatever reason, are back to the broken price tag on Spencer Strider.
Yep, he looks fantastic. Can't imagine wanting to get away from him. I have him with the 4th best projection on the slate, but clearly he's not the 4th most expensive pitcher. Not even close. So I would like to get to Spencer Strider. That's going to be easy. Let's sort of put these guys into a bucket here. I'm assuming you're just looking at it like McClanahan and Nola are basically the same. Are you just expecting? So we've got basically 100% of the 200% of ownership for pitchers going to McClanahan, Nola, and Strider. My guess for you is that you're going to be over that aggregate, but you don't necessarily know how that happens.
Most likely, yeah. I expect to be relatively concentrated on pitching tonight. The reason I kind of hesitate there is a strong second tier as well. You mentioned those 3 guys, and I do think they're like the top, but Carlos Rodon's not very far behind them. Luis Garcia isn't very far behind Rodon. And then you do have, George Kirby and Barrios and Clevenger that I think are interesting as well. So there is just solid pitching in general, but I expect that I'll just be getting a lot of those three.
Okay. And for the people that I know will inevitably ask this question, just to put it out there, you have no problem having Nola and Spencer Strider in the same lineup?
Nope, don't care.
Okay. Can we go to either offense here? No one's pulling any ownership. The Braves rank a bit higher than the Phillies in our top stack tool, which is interesting to me, but not all that important. Is this a spot where you're even trying to go to either side? The ownership would be the appealing spot.
Yeah, I mean, I have a difficult time here. If you wanted the case or the argument you would make for Atlanta or Philly, but Atlanta, I think more so, is that they have a ton of power in their lineup. If they do happen to have a good game, you're knocking off 38% on Nola. I personally don't play that type of strategy. Yeah. If you did, then like if you're somebody that was stacking the Tigers yesterday, not because you thought the Tigers were going to do well, but like just because purely they were facing Manaea, then you should probably be playing the Braves and the Phillies here. But that's not how I go about it, so I doubt that I'll really get to either side.
Also, probably not something that we need to tell those people because they're already clearly stacking the Phillies. If you were willing to stack the Tigers yesterday, you're willing to stack actual good offenses, or at least above average offenses, depending on which team we're looking at. There's not really like an individual bat we could look at for either of these sides that stands out, right? And rolling back to the Rays, I don't think that any of those guys are like super cash likely, other than maybe Christian Bethancourt because he has catcher eligibility, but I don't really see anything to talk about from an offense.
Could be in there too, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. There's no we don't have a path here for offense, right?
For the Braves and Phillies?
Yeah, just any individual bats that actually do stand out to you.
I don't think so. Like even Derek Hall's come up to 4K.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how to really talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, like neither pitcher. It's not even like either one of them are guys that get strikeouts, but also allow a decent amount of power. Strider this year, 123 expected ISO to lefties, sub 100 to righties. For Nola, 134 to lefties, 144 to righties. It's not even like, you can point to them and say, oh, well, when they do get hit, they get hit hard. They don't.
All righty. Well, let's go to game number 3 as soon as I start running this crunch. But what everybody else should do is hit that like button. Where are we at now? How many people we got in here? 400 plus. I like it. Danny P says Kirby over Nola today. We'll get there. Blue Jays and Cardinals. Jays 5.2 run implied total. Cardinals 3.6. Jose Barrios going for Toronto. Andre Payante going for the Cards. No ownership going to Payante. Barrios in the 10% owned range, 7,900. Feel like he's just permanently 1 to 10% owned, and it's sort of just that's like where I think he should always be. I don't know how it happens, but 7,900, price is falling even more. Perfectly acceptable matchup against the Cardinals. How do you feel about that ownership 10%? To me, that's just what it should be.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. He's not on the same level as Nola, McClanahan, Strider, Rodon. He's cheaper than Garcia and Kirby, which is nice. Normally you're not looking to take pitchers against the Cards, but because Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt aren't allowed in the country, it makes their lineup a little bit weaker. Albert Pujols batting cleanup, not a great strikeout guy, but not a cleanup hitter either. So it does make Barrios look pretty good. Also, for whatever it's worth, he has strung together a few good starts in a row. He's been really, really weird this year. Not so far, at least not living up to his career numbers. Only about a 21% strikeout percentage, xFIP a little bit over 4. I've speculated he may have been tipping pitches previously. I don't know if he was or not, but it does make me feel a little bit better that we've just seen a few solid starts when we're talking about somebody that I think may have been tipping pitches.
Payante at all? 5,500?
No, just not enough strikeout stuff and a really difficult matchup against the Jays.
Speaking of those Jays, 8th in top stack percentage, 10th in ownership. I actually have them a little bit higher in top stack, but nothing that makes it all that interesting. No strikeouts coming from Payante is terrifying against Toronto. I would like to take some shots here, probably in the same sort of area as the field. Do you want to get there more than that?
No, I think the field pretty much has it right here. Piante's been good from a run prevention standpoint this year, about a 3.7 xFIP, 63% ground ball percentage is extremely good. But I've talked about it, previously. I don't mind targeting pitchers like that with power bats like the Jays have, because your offense is going to fail more often than not anyway. It doesn't really matter to me if they're striking out or hitting ground balls. But when you don't have swing and miss stuff like Piante doesn't, I just think it makes it a little bit more likely, that the Jays are going to have success, because you're at least letting these guys that have tons and tons of power put the ball in play. If he's not locating, perfectly, then they can do a lot of damage quickly. So I don't mind targeting him and taking my chances on these guys being able to hit the ball.
Got a super chat that just came in from my filler arc. He said, Josh, who you got in the Euros? Isn't that 2 years from now? I don't
no
feel like European soccer tournament between all of the countries of Europe. I don't feel like that's active. If you're asking me to pick 2 years from now, I would happily select someone else, but probably Germany, not England, would be my guess. But please don't tell me that you mean the women's Euros. Yeah, Matt Noah said women. Yeah, I don't know. They have soccer? Interesting. What?
Unbelievable.
Why unbelievable?
The rampant sexism coming from my co-host right now.
It's not sexism. I watch the men's sport. Let the women show up for the women's sport. Thank you, Bill Burr, for that.
Bill
Burr. I'll happily steal it. He's right. He's right. Chuck Juice says, I'd rather talk under 16 men's soccer than women's. That's because they beat the women's national teams. It's true. It's not even a joke. Cardinals bats against Barrios.
I don't hate it. I've been on the side, all season that I think Barrios is going to be better going forward than he has been, and I still stand by that. But he has really struggled in particular with left-handed power, but power in general. 250 expected ISO so far to lefties with only an 18% strikeout percentage. Nice price tags on Edman, Carlson, Gorman's only 2,900. Tyler O'Neill from the right side, but has plenty of power as well. So somewhat interested in the Cardinals. Certainly not as much as the Blue Jays, though.
Yeah, I don't have much to say other than the fact that they are incredibly easy to get to. Cheap across the board for the most part, except for Tommy Edman at 4K, and in the leadoff spot with second base shortstop eligibility, not exactly expensive. I got nothing else here.
Me neither.
3 up pretty quickly. That was easy enough. Schedule for the rest of the day. Live before lock coming up next. That will be at 6 p.m. Greg and Eric will take you all the way to 7:05. I'm sure Eric will be stealing most of his content for that show. Can't say I blame him. I mean, we are a show that goes game by game, so I assume he's just going to take everything from us and use it for the live.
I mean, he was stealing from Mike Jones and Outcast yesterday too.
That Outcast bit was so bad, just so bad. I was really sad that I had AirPods in, because I thought that they were just gonna like stab my own, like the AirPods would be like a transformer that Steve Jobs created, and it would just slice my brain just to save myself. It was really bad. Anyway, free content for today. MLB top stacks are free. We'll talk about it the entire show. And then PGA top golfers also free. So 2 for the price of 1. And the price is no dollars whatsoever. Mets and Yankees Subway Series. 3.9 run implied total for the Mets, 4 for the Yankees. Taiwan Walker and Jordan Montgomery. Neither one of these guys pulling any ownership. Taiwan Walker, 9,400 for reasons I'm not sure. Jordan Montgomery, 8,300. Equally as weird. Feels like these two guys should have switched their prices. I don't really understand it. I'm willing to get to a little bit of Montgomery, but the most likely scenario for me is that I don't have either guy.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. There's just so many good pitchers in decent spots on this slate. I have a hard time getting to either one of these guys. Montgomery's been good from a run prevention standpoint. 3.6 xFIP this year, but only striking out 20% of hitters. Doesn't have a great matchup against the Mets. On the other side, Walker, an identical 20.1% strikeout percentage, nearly identical 3.7 xFIP. Another solid pitcher, but I don't feel the need to roster him against the Yankees here.
Yeah, it's just weird. I just don't understand why Taiwan Walker 9,400 today.
I have no idea. He's more expensive than Spencer
price.
Strider. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Although, if you flip their prices, I would also probably still not want Taiwan Walker, and I definitely wouldn't want Jordan Montgomery at that point. So
right.
Maybe it's more right than wrong. Also, neither offense getting any love. Mets are 21st in the top stack tool. Yankees are 15th. Neither team's getting any ownership. Yankees in the aggregate 1%. Is this game just like a full cross off? Do we just skip it?
It's pretty close. Like you can always make a case for getting to the Yankees or the Mets at low ownership, but it doesn't have anything to do with the matchups here. You know, Walker's been good this year, like I said, so is Montgomery. Neither pitcher is allowing a lot of power. 138 expected ISO to righties for Montgomery, 126 to righties for Walker, 141 to lefties. They're also not cheap. The Yankees, you know, the Yankees you would want to get to at least are all pretty much around at least 5K, Judge up at 6K. The Mets are relatively expensive as well. You do get a little bit of a value with Mark Canha hitting 5th at 3,400, but it's really tough for me to make any sort of argument for either of these teams other than they're good at hitting and nobody's rostering them.
It's a decent point, I guess. I mean, Aaron Judge at 3.9%, no one else higher than 0.7. That'll get it done. It's just
the issue, yeah. And the other thing too is like them being expensive actually matters on this slate when you have good pitching.
Right. You know, we've got McClanahan 5 figures, Nola 5 figures, Rodon at 9,800. I mean, the only person that like is a crazy value is Strider at this point. You know, Clevenger is something we can talk about later. Kirby at 8,500, something we could talk about later, but there's nothing at the bottom. I mean, Ethan Small's getting 5% ownership. That's the most ownership of anybody from Barrios down. Barrios is 7,900. So I hope this game just stays quiet and we just turn it into like a 12-game slate. That's my hope. We'll see if that works out. Now we'll go to Red Sox and Guardians. This one's a little bit different. We're definitely talking offense here. 5.4 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.7 for the Guardians. Josh Winkowski and Kirk McCarty are the two pitchers here. McCarty, 5,100. He's the long guy in this one. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, Shaw, I think, is opening.
Yeah. And then Winkowski on the opposite side. I can't see any reason you would be rostering a pitcher here.
Nope, neither can I. McCarty doesn't appear to be very good at all. I think one of the weaker pitchers on the slate. Winkowski's been okay, 4.22 xFIP, but only striking out about 16% of hitters. Not a good strikeout matchup here against Cleveland. I don't have interest in the pitching.
There we go.
Oh,
I assume you have interest. What's up?
No, I just pulled up McCarty's Fangraphs page, and it said the Guardians claimed him off waivers from the Orioles, and I have never heard this guy's name in my life.
Well, that can't be good. Although the Orioles are pretty bad at having pitching talent, so he could be good.
More. He was with Cleveland his entire career. He pitched 4 innings for Baltimore this year and then went back to Cleveland.
I think we're both getting to offense in this one. My question to you is going to be, which side are you getting to more? Red Sox, number 1 in ownership, 11.5% in the aggregate. The Guardians are 5th. This is the number 2 stack. That would be the Red Sox, and number 6 stack in our top stack tool. I'm a little bit lighter on the Boston side of this one, although I will need a rerun. The Boston lineup came out after I ran my top stacks before the show started. Clearly, I like both of these teams, but which side of this do you expect to get to more?
Yeah, I do like both teams, and I think it's clearly a better spot for Boston against McCarty. You do have JD Martinez back in the lineup, which is nice as well, but I think there's a good chance I actually get to Cleveland a little bit more since they are lower owned. Jose Ramirez looks, as usual, like one of the top third base plays. You have some power with Josh Naylor. Steven Kwan's still cheap leading off. Nolan Jones is still cheap from the left side as well. No, Franmil Reyes in the lineup does take one power bat away, but I think there's actually a chance I get to the Guardians a little bit more.
I'm with you. I think I'm more likely to get to the Cleveland side of it. I actually had them with the exact same top stack odds before this show started, which will obviously make it a lot closer because Boston has 4.5% more ownership. I do think it's interesting, though. I mean, I guess the reason that it's interesting is because Devers isn't healthy. That you get a relatively flat Boston ownership, where normally we have Devers like pulling 2.5, 3 times the ownership of whatever else is going on for Boston. But now you can kind of work your way through the whole lineup, and they're cheap. Just in case I buried the lead here, they're also 3rd in top value. So they are number 1 based on stack score. They're number 2 for me. They're a good combination of having upside and value. It just feels a little overowned.
Yeah, and there's 5 guys pulling double-digit ownership. That is a good point though about the value as well. It is going to make it easy to stack them and get to the pitching that you want. There's a decent chance I end up using them as like 3-mans or 2-mans a little bit more frequently than 5-mans.
Cash options in this game are probably, I don't want to say pretty plentiful, particularly on the Boston side from a value, but it's looking, I'm guessing Jose Ramirez is the third baseman that you would be most likely to get to at this point.
Probably.
Unless there's like a broken guy.
Yeah, I mean, in the one I threw together this morning, it had Dahlbeck, but he's hitting 8th, so probably not. Obviously, would like to get to Ramirez. I think Kwan is playable. Ref Snyder is playable. Bogarts or JD are probably playable. I'm not sure that they'd be like top of the list guys.
Okay. Yeah, Dalbeck's ownership, I don't know when we ran it in relationship to the lineup, but I could see that coming down a little bit just from hitting in the 8 hole. Still a good play. First, third eligibility, 2,500. Like, doesn't really change.
I think Ref Snyder's probably the most likely guy I'd get to from Boston. Leading off at 3K. In the like placeholder lineup I had Slater at 3,300. That can really easily become Ref Snyder.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. That's what happens when you have the leadoff spot. This is a good game to attack. A monster total. I'm a little surprised to see it be as big. Like, these aren't crazy good offenses.
Yeah,
and the pitchers aren't like ultra bad either.
Right. It's kind of difficult to like talk about what you like here. It's obviously, Bogarts, Martinez, Ref Snyder, obviously Jose Ramirez, but then, I don't have any like great case to make for Owen Miller or something.
Right.
Other than he's cheap and hitting 5th and Winkowski's a mediocre pitcher.
Yeah, I think that's really the problem here. We've got two teams that are relatively close to the top stacks. They're also really cheap. And when you get that decent top stack or like above average top stack, above average top value, these guys are just going to end up in a lot of lineups.
Yep.
I got nothing else here. Tigers and Padres. 3.5 run implied total for yesterday's heroes. 4.5 for the Pods. Garrett Hill going for Detroit. Mike Clevenger going for San Diego. I'm going to skip right over Garrett Hill. Feel free to fill it in if you'd like to. But for Clevenger, 8,100, projected for about 15% ownership. That seems right to me. I don't know how deep he's actually going to be able to go into a game, but if you're going to be able to go deep, generally speaking, the Tigers are the team to face for that, except for days that look like yesterday. What are you doing with Clevenger?
Why are you concerned about how deep he's going to go?
I mean, he just doesn't throw a lot of, he doesn't go deep into games, generally speaking.
I mean, he was limited early on in the year.
I think his first start, he threw like 90 pitches.
So after he got injured, he was limited coming back. Like he 95, 91, 75, 60, 39, 81, 86, 98, 83, 94.
Yeah. Like I got him in for 5 innings. Best I could really.
He's gone at least 5 in 4 straight starts, 6 in 3 of those 4.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give him an extra hook. Either way, like I think that he warrants his 15% ownership. Like he came out of my sim at 18%. Yeah, like I'm not really light on him or anything.
Yeah, I was mainly just trying to clarify that like when you said you didn't know how deep he would go, you weren't implying that he's got like, a 70 pitch count or something. Like
no. That I worded that poorly.
But yeah, so I mean, I like Clevenger here. 8,100 is a very reasonable price tag. The Tigers are not a good offense, despite what they did yesterday. Clevenger struck out 25% of hitters, right around a 4x FIP this year. He looks good. I think on a lot of slates, you would be getting more ownership here. As is, I think 15% makes sense when you consider that you're just going to be allocating quite a bit to those top 4 guys. Yeah.
Well, it's just like he's $600 away from Strider. They're not comparable today.
Right.
I mean, they're like, Clevenger looks good, but.
Yeah, like the matchup is better for Clevenger, but you're talking about a 12-point difference in strikeout percentage, which is crazy considering that Clevenger is an above-average strikeout pitcher. Right.
Can you imagine if Strider had the Angels or something today? Whew. We projected him for
what would the
27 strikeouts?
14.
Yeah, that's why I said 27, 26 and a half. Does he get everybody? Yeah, like let's rank Clevenger in relationship to Barrios, and at least in this case, we'll add Jordan Montgomery and George Kirby because that's everybody around there that's getting any ownership. Clearly, we're saying Strider is out of there, but the 4 guys under Strider: Kirby, Montgomery, Clevenger, Barrios. We've talked about everybody but Kirby at this point. Is Clevenger your best option there?
I prefer Clevenger. Yeah, it's okay. It's not by like a wide margin. You know, if somebody wanted to argue George Kirby, fine. If you wanted to argue Barrios, fine. The only one out of that group that I think you couldn't make a case for being the best is Montgomery.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm happy to get any of those guys in a lineup. I don't want a lot of Montgomery, but I'd still be fine if he showed up. He's not like a clear like cross off by any means. But if I were looking at this, Clevenger would be my first guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, Montgomery just lowest strikeout percentage, worst matchup of the group. Just pretty easy for me to kind of make him the clear 4. And then, you know, I think Clevenger's got the highest strikeout percentage. He's got a really good matchup. Kirby's got a really good park. Barrios is whatever.
And I agree that Montgomery is the clear 4.
Yeah, for me, I think it's Clevenger, but if you wanted to argue Kirby or Barrios, I think that's fine.
Okay. Padres Bats, 8th in top stack, 12th in top value, 13th in aggregate ownership. Not a park that we need to get to all that much. Lineup's not all that interesting. I don't really care about the Padres. Like I'm gonna get some for sure, but we're talking about like my eighth favorite team or something.
Yeah, I think kind of just a middle of the road spot. Hill made 8 starts at AAA this year, 7 starts at AA. At AAA, he struck out 28.7% of hitters, had a 4.42 xFIP. At AA, he struck out 40% of hitters, 41% of hitters, had a 2.51 xFIP. You know, it's the major leagues now. Cronenworth's good, Machado is good, but I don't really see myself getting to a lot of San Diego here.
Same. Do you see yourself getting to the opposite side of this game in any way?
I doubt it.
Kind of figured that was the case. Let me just dump this Angels lineup into my sheet quickly.
Jared said Clevenger and Cash. I think Cash is one of Nola, McClanahan, and then Strider.
Yeah. I would say that Clevenger is wrong in Cash.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with Clevenger. It just has to do with the other pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
If I'm playing,
I don't know how it's not some combination of McClanahan, Nola, and Strider. Like, I don't know how it could be anyone else there.
Right.
Maybe
you could,
Garcia.
I guess, throw Carlos Rodon in there, but like even that, I don't think is right. But like, it's at least defensible. If I'm playing somebody in Cash and they don't have 2 of those 4 pitchers, I think I
consider
have
it a victory.
Them.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you can make a case that Carlos Rodon is just like he should be owned more.
Right. Yeah. Like it's
he's
with
got
Rodon,
that same sort of talent.
Right. With Rodon, like I think in Cash you should have 2 of Strider, McClanahan, and Nola. But if somebody played Carlos Rodon, I'm not going to look and say like, oh wow, what an egregious play. Like they played a guy with a 30% strikeout percentage at sub 10K. He's at least like defensible, even though he's not where I'm going to go. But if you somehow find your way to a pitcher that is not one of those 4 in Cash, I think that I just have an advantage against you going forward because you missed that.
I agree. I think this would be a good follow-up, and we have the time, so I want to ask you. It's in this vein. So just following up on Jared's question, why is that? Like, what do you see when you see that and you think like it's got to be one of these 3 guys? I say, or like in this case, like one of those 4, if you want to add Rodon, just from a talent perspective. What makes you see that? Is that an ownership thing? Is that a point per dollar thing? Like
projection.
Like what are your primary factors there?
I mean, it's really projection. Like I don't pay much attention to ownership. And you know, like if I'm playing 50-50s, which I haven't been, I've just been playing head to heads. But if I'm playing 50-50s and like I really think something is a coin flip, I'll go with the higher owned guy. But outside of that, I don't care a lot about ownership. It's more so though that like ownership's derived from projections and like what guys are going to show up. So, you know, typically you can use ownership as a guide if you need to. But it's really just like all of your top projected lineups are going to have 2 of those pitchers.
Agreed. Yeah, when I'm bringing these up on the shows, I generally just defer to the highest owned guys because that's just the easiest way to cull a list down of cash options is to just start from the top of the ownership and work your way down. If Spencer Strider were like 6% owned today, and this is about, I don't mean like from his talent perspective, but like he just wouldn't be a guy that you were looking at in cash generally. His projection would be significantly lower at that point too. Right. His salary would be higher or something.
Yeah, like in general. It's not to say that like if for some reason, you know, Spencer Strider were 8,700, like this exact slate, and for some reason Spencer Strider 6%, I don't know how that would happen, but like in this hypothetical, it's not like disqualifying him from being my SP2 in cash. He still would be because he projects so well for me.
There would just likely be somebody better than that somehow.
Right. Yeah. Like that also wouldn't happen. And to your point, like, if you are kind of trying to just get like a general, who's playable, like for the most part, the most popular guys are going to be the best plays.
Okay. I feel like we talk about these cash plays a lot, but we never really dug into sort of the why behind it. And cash is pretty easy to like understand what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean,
there are a lot of fixes like this that can change a person's cash output like pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, like you're playing for basically a 50th percentile outcome, or whatever, somewhere in there, depending on what contest you're playing. So it's just a lot more projection based and trying to put together the best team that you can, as opposed to tournaments. You're thinking a lot more about like range of outcomes, especially with in the context of ceiling and ownership and stuff like that.
Bingo.
Somebody said don't like Luis Garcia in cash. Nothing about Luis Garcia. He's just not as good as the other guys.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more interested in Garcia in that regard, but at the same time, I think he's probably like the fifth option. And at that point, I'm probably not getting there. There would have to be some really aggressively, if Coors is incredibly expensive and you need to get to like, which hasn't been the case in ages, and you needed to get to like basically 8 bats in that game, then I could see the Garcia Strider combination being the one that frees up that extra like $1,000 on the opposite side. I don't think it's going to matter today. There's enough pay down options that look good.
Right. Yeah. Like if I somehow got to Garcia in cash, it would be like I have Strider and then I have all the bats that I want. I don't see comparable bats I can drop down to, and I only have $9,100 for my other pitcher.
Yep.
That's not likely to be the case today, though, because there's just enough value with bats.
Yeah, the reason you're not going to Garcia is because you're already going to Strider. That he's already taking the cheaper SP slot, so to speak.
Right, and it's like when you compare, Nola or McClanahan to Garcia, yeah, you're getting a little bit of a price discount there, but they're not that much more expensive. And like you were saying, Coors isn't that expensive either. Right. Tim Anderson, for example, 5,100, Vaughn 4,300. It's not like you're talking about them being 6K and 5K or something like that.
Where they should be.
Right.
Usually, at least. I don't have anything else for. Oh, are you going back to the Tigers?
No, wasn't there in the first place.
Sure, you know what I meant. They are my number one value stack, which should get you precisely nowhere. All right, that's 6 games down. We've got 7 more to go. 750 people up in this house, 145 likes. We actually need to step that up. I'm not going to rap like Eric did yesterday because I've got respect for myself, but you guys should hit the like button. It would be incredibly helpful. Because now we need to talk a little bit about Odds Shopper, presenting sponsor of this show. I wish Adam could do this read right now so I can go to the bathroom, but that wouldn't last long enough. Anyway,
Odds
you guys should check out.
Go.
You guys should go to Odds Shopper, sign up, because 1, it's free. Selling in air quotes, you guys, a free tool is incredibly simple. If you're sports betting, you have the ability to shop around for the best lines that you could find. That should just be thing number 1 that you're doing. I put out a betting video Monday through Friday on the Odds Shopper channel, looking at early MLB lines. They pretty consistently move the direction we would like them to move. So you really want to be getting in there early. Odds Shopper will help you do that. If you're more interested in like the player prop side of all of this, our projections are on Odds Shopper. The expected ROI of the bets are on Odds Shopper. The expected win rate is on Odds Shopper. We've got like parlay builders for you to use these tools. It's a fantastic resource and it costs you $0. Just check it out. If you don't like it, don't go back. Like that's fine. I think you're going to like it because it's a great tool and it's only getting more and more features. We talked a lot about it when we were in Chicago. We learned a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes for Odds Shopper. A lot of fun features to come. Be ready for it, guys. But all you got to do is just simply sign up for free. No cost to you. Every feature that I mentioned doesn't cost you a penny. All right, I'm about to pee in this water bottle. Brewers and Twins. I can't pee in this water bottle. I'd have to cut the top off. Brewers, 4.6 run implied total. Twins, 4.6 run implied total. Ethan Small going for Milwaukee. Dylan Bundy going for Minnesota. Either one of these guys going to show up in your lineups?
I think if I needed to pay down for an SP2, Small is towards the top of the list. He's made 15 starts at AAA this year, 72 and 2/3 innings, 26% strikeout percentage, 4.33 xFIP. Only one major league start so far, but he's really inexpensive. So if I don't know, if like I'm going to the Yankees or something and still want to get good one-offs, maybe I go like Strider Small or something like that. I think he's underpriced, but I also just don't know that he's that useful on this particular slate. Bundy's a much more difficult sell for me. 6,500 is still cheap, but it's not as cheap as Small, obviously. He doesn't have the same sort of strikeout stuff. So if I were to get to one, I'd expect it to be Small.
I finally installed like an email client on my laptop. Normally I just went straight to Gmail, but I got a pop-up of an email that I got. And it was for WNBA Top Shot. I was like, did they not hear the beginning of the show? Neither one of these, like both of these teams look pretty similar from an offense perspective, which shouldn't be all that surprising given their implied totals. We've got the Brewers 11th in aggregate ownership. We've got the Twins 12th. We've got the Twins quite a bit ahead in top stack, however, 5.5% to 3.5% basically. Is your lean here Minnesota?
I think it's close, but yes, just because the top of that order I think looks good. Buxton's back in the lineup. He's only 5,100. You have Correa, at shortstop. Polanco, cheap Kyle Garlick, although, he certainly could get pinch hit for. Jose Miranda is also inexpensive. So I do like the Minnesota side a little bit more, but I do think it's really close between the two.
Yeah, I don't have a huge gap. Like I had it by 0.6 of a percentage point in top stack, so might as well be the exact same thing. I just assume I'm going to get to like little bits of everything here. The prices are good enough. The implied run total is good enough. This just screams like I end up with, I don't know, like 8 to 10% in the aggregate of both of these sides, but nobody in particular.
Yeah, I mean, Buxton, not surprising to anybody, I'm sure, stands out for me the most.
Yeah. Big stand there.
Yeah.
It's like when Spags would take Stanton in the home run game. It's just like, good work, man. Way to do it. You had Nelson Cruz for like Monday through Friday. It's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Buxton, I think is cash playable. Don't know if I actually would land on him. Obviously, there's a lot of outfielders, but yeah, he's the guy that obviously looks the best.
I forgot to ask this question, and this is going to be a revolutionary answer if you guys give it to me. Is there a lot of noise behind me while I'm talking? Or like, do you hear a lot of background noise from me?
No.
Nothing at all?
No. Your actual background is like super blurry.
No, it's just life, man. You got to change your contacts. Are you drunk?
I mean, yeah, but
well, anyway, so I got a window air conditioner, 10 feet to my right. I shut that shit off yesterday for Live Before Lock because I assumed that it was just going to be ridiculous, and it was hot as hell in here. You could probably see sweat on me by the end of Live Before Lock in comparison to how it started. I forgot to turn it off here. It's good to know that the noise isn't a problem because now I don't want to turn it off because I'm comfortable.
Larry C said you look like you're in 3D, which seems normal.
Yeah.
I know what he means, but
yeah. The noise is me talking. Yeah. Well, if I don't have it blurred, then you guys see the Budweiser girls poster behind me, which is fun. No cash options in this game outside of like if you got to Buxton, right?
Right. And Slate Breaker said, is Garlick hurt? Why would he be pinch hit for? No, he's not hurt. He's starting. But they're facing a left-handed starter. Typically, he starts against lefties. He doesn't typically play against righties. So pretty good chance when you get a righty out of the bullpen, he is coming out of the game.
That guy probably got all the fucking you're a vampire type jokes and stuff growing up. I feel bad for people that had names that like you're just default going to take a beating in jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't make things any easier.
No, it can't. There's so many that it's just tricky. I look like a Roblox character. I don't know what that is.
Me neither, but it sounds right.
I know. I know that it's a video game. I don't know anything about the video game. I look like a real life grown Timmy Turner. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
I know the name. I can't
I don't know what that is either, so that doesn't help me at all, Jordan. Fairly Odd Parents.
It was like a Nickelodeon show.
Interesting. Oh, crazy! People are agreeing with that one. So, is that? Oh, you pulled it up, Jordan. Is that me? Huh.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay. I guess. I mean, there are worse things to be called on shows, right, Adam?
Dustin May.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take this one all day. Aubrey Champion. Josh, I think you are my dad. I mean, if your mom worked at Tootsie's in Fort Lauderdale however many years ago, it's certainly possible. And otherwise, I would know. Well, I don't know. Your mom go to Villanova? Royals and Angels. 4.4 run implied total for the Royals, 4.2 for the Angels. Angel Zerpa, I don't want to confuse anybody here, going for the Royals. Jose Suarez going for the Angels. Neither guy getting any ownership. Do you see this as a spot for pitching?
Not really. Zerpa's facing the Angels. You can just play guys blindly against the Angels. But again, I don't think you're going to be paying down for pitcher all that often on this slate. I would go to Ethan Small before Zerpa just based on skill level also. But, he's facing the Angels. So not going to entirely talk anybody off of it. Suarez on the other side, I don't really see a reason.
I don't see it either. Angels 8th in ownership, Royals 7th. We've got the Angels a bit higher in top stack odds. We have the Angels a little bit higher in top value odds. Do you want to get to either side of this game?
Not particularly. The Angels suck. Taylor Ward's price tag does look pretty good at 3,900, so I think that's at least worth a mention. On the other side, I've talked about it a lot with Kansas City, where they're not a very good offense, but at the same time, like Whit Merrifield at 3,900 looks like a good second base option. Hunter Dozier's only 3,100. Lefty for Pasquantino, but he's only 2,300. So you can make a case for those guys, but not a great park to hit in. Not a great lineup overall. Still no Bobby Witt, so I doubt that I get to too much.
Yeah, I don't see too much here. I'd be more likely to get to the Royals side for sure. How many stolen bases did Syndergaard end up giving up?
I know at least 2. Benintendi stole, Merrifield stole. I don't know.
Okay. I saw DC posting like a ridiculous parlay that like had a payout structure that seemed viable.
He needed one more Benintendi steal for like 40K.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he
$200 or something. Stupid.
Yeah. He hit the 200 into 8K on like Benintendi and somebody else.
Dozier?
Yeah, I think it might have been Dozier.
Yeah.
No, Dozier didn't steal. He only had like 2 points.
I know he posted one for Dozier. I don't remember what it was, but when I saw it, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. When I looked at it, I was like, I kind of want to make this bet.
He keeps posting them whenever Syndergaard pitches, and it makes me mad that I can't bet here.
Yeah, I happen to be in a place where I can load up the Price is Right slots for TK, which is a death knell for me. I'd rather waste money once we get to Dallas. Any cash options on the Royals or Angels side?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's go to Coors. Rockies and White Sox, 5.4 run implied total for the Rocks, 5.5 for the Sox. Yerman Marquez and Michael Kopech. Neither one of these guys getting any ownership. Should they?
No.
Should Kopech? I guess is the better question.
I don't think so.
Yeah, there's just too many other actual good options that aren't in Coors to want to take that shot. Like, there are scenarios where I think a flyer there would be good just because of how bad Colorado is, but
I don't think it's yesterday's slate, sure.
Right. I don't think today there's too much good pitching to like, what's the upside here that he does as well as these other guys that aren't in shit matchups?
Right. And it's also not like Kopech is good or has been good. Like, he has good stuff, but you're talking about a pitcher this year with a 21.5% strikeout percentage, a 12.5% walk percentage, and an xFIP over 5. It's not like you're talking about somebody that's just been, you're not talking about like Dylan Cease, where he's just been dominating and now he's in Coors, but he's still, a really good pitcher. Kopech, like you have so many question marks about him, even if this game were in Chicago, and then now you throw him in the Coors Field, and it's just like on this slate with all the pitching, I don't really see a reason.
He came out of my sim at 2%. This was hypothetical to kill a little bit more time. Let's talk bats here. We got to start on the White Sox side. This is our number one stack. They are second in ownership. They were second in my top stack. Unequivocally just a really easy team to want to get to. They aren't expensive for being in Coors. The matchup isn't the best. Like Marquez is a real pitcher, which you'd prefer to get a real gas can. But we're going to Chicago, right? Like we just have to.
Yeah, I think you go to both sides here, but Chicago pulling like 11% ownership, 11% chance of being the top stack. So not really getting crazy ownership here. They are not free, but they're also not expensive. Anderson at 5,100, Grandal at 3,800, I think is likely your cash catcher. Moncada is relatively cheap. Vaughn is 4,300. Jimenez is sub 4K. And then you also, the bottom of the order, not great, but Gavin Sheets 5%, Harrison 4%, Engel 4%. So as far as 5-man stack goes, you can get some. I need to refresh ownership, or we need to update it. Those guys aren't in the lineup, but either way, you're not going to get much ownership going to the bottom of this lineup, which actually is Pollock, Garcia, and Engel. But the point stands; it's a good spot. They're not getting crazy ownership.
I'm going to have to grab that White Sox lineup later, but we'll deal with that. Am I crazy to like?
We have Leury Garcia at 8%. We do actually have Pollock at 13%. He's only 3K, but Engel at 5%, Garcia at 8%.
So my next question for you is this, and I'm hoping that we're on the same side here. I think we might be. I like Colorado more than I like Chicago.
So do I.
Okay, bang, hit me with it.
I mean,
why do you like it?
Ownership? Like considering ownership, I do.
Yeah. Having half of the ownership or whatever the actual number is somewhere in that neighborhood is the big time deciding factor there. Talk to me about Colorado.
Yeah, and the White Sox do offer more value as well, but only about 5% aggregate ownership coming into the Rockies. Chris Bryant and Connor Joe, the highest projected guys at 7%, assuming that they're going to be in the lineup. And kind of talked about it with Kopech. Like he's got good stuff, but it hasn't really played this year. He walks too many guys. xFIP is over 5. He's allowing over a home run per 9 innings. Now he's going in the Coors Field. The Rockies at home this year have a 103 WRC plus. I think like a 176 or 179 ISO, something like that. Not surprisingly, they're much better in Coors. So I realize they're a little bit more difficult to get to than the White Sox are, but it's not like they're crazy. They're not crazy expensive. You're just talking about a bunch of guys in the like mid 4s to 5K range as opposed to right around 4K. So I still think you can get to them, still get to some good pitching, and they're not getting a lot of ownership.
GQ said it in chat. Colorado ownership will be higher than listed. I agree to an extent. I don't think it's going to be crazy.
Maybe. But I think it's more along the lines of like we have CJ Cron at 6%. Maybe he's like 9.
Have you updated the top stack tool? It's now 12.5 to 4.8.
What?
I've got the White Sox ownership now at 12.5%. I've got the Rockies at 4.8%.
I thought you meant the Rockies had a 12.8% or 12.5% chance of being the top stack.
I would be surprised if the Rockies are 10th in aggregate ownership. I'm not saying that I think it's going to be second, but
they're not cheap is the thing.
No, and I don't think it's going to change anything that I'm doing. But if 4.8 was actually 6.8, that would make a little bit more sense to me. And it's not really like a major affecting thing. It just feels like it's going to end up a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston's going to pull a lot of ownership because they're so cheap. I think the White Sox being the better value, they're certainly going to pull more ownership. And then also it is a 13-game slate. So, like, if you tell me that, Bryant and Joe and CJ Cron are going to be 8, 9, 10% instead of like 6 or 7, I could buy that. But I don't think we're going to get a situation like we did with Atlanta that day where they ended up matching the Dodgers for like the highest owned on the slate.
No, like they're not running down the White Sox at all. I think we see something in the 6.5 to 7% range in the aggregate. And I think that'll end up, I don't want to say making more sense. I just think it's going to climb a little bit. Look, if all these guys are an extra 2%, it's not really changing anything for me. I'd like to get to Colorado in relationship to the White Sox just because they're significantly underowned. And I think the implied run total tells a big story here. 5.4 to 5.5. Like this is a coin flip game. I'm a little surprised to see the gap in ownership be as big as it is. That said, I'm going to be in this game a lot. And let's talk about cash options from the White Sox side, because that seems like the more likely scenario. And do you think you get anybody from the Colorado side?
In cash, I don't think I get to Colorado. From the White Sox side, though, I think Tim Anderson at shortstop, Andrew Vaughn certainly viable. Grandal, I think, is the catcher. 3K AJ Pollock, you could certainly get to, even though he's batting seventh. Jimenez has been garbage, but still has, he's a good hitter. He just hasn't been so far this year. He's only 3,900. So I think most of the cash plays, or all the cash plays, are coming from the White Sox side.
What is happening in chat? By the way, chat, hit the like button. Let's get up over 200. Why is Josh doing a show with Bertans? Obviously, I'm not. Laffy's not here. Bagley 232 said, Eric, I can't unsee it. You got the wrong guy, guys.
Yeah, I'll say that's
he's not even the guy that looks the most like Bertans at this company.
Yeah, I saw that and just ignored it because that's clearly Laffy.
Preposterous. Get the Dustin May pick up there.
That's ridiculous.
You should never mind. You should get his jersey for sure, though. Would you get it if he won you a GPP?
I actually got out of the habit of doing that. I just win too many. I stopped buying them. But
like, let's say you ship on Saturday, which would obviously be really fun. Like, do you get a Amanda Nunes walkout shirt or something?
Right. Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Because they have that trash gear.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd like. Well, but she wouldn't be the one that won it for me. But yeah, like, I guess I would probably have to.
I could say that it's trash. So I had a buddy that worked on some of it while it was
Get
at
that
Reebok.
shit off the screen, Jordan.
I had a buddy that worked on some of the UFC gear when it was at Reebok, and he put together a shirt for Connor a bunch of years back. And when the design came out, the internet just like ripped it to shreds, like took a giant steaming shit on top of it. Not because of it, like he was told he needed to make it look like a claymation type design for Connor. And he was just like, all right, like if that's what you want, I think it's going to suck. And the only saving grace is that Connor's on one of those UFC countdowns being like, oh, I love this design. He was just like, all right, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
It was whenever he fought Khabib, actually. It was his walkout shirt for that. He doesn't even have one. He's like, I want to know part of it. Everybody shit on it.
At least Connor liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried searching for it and stuff, couldn't find it anywhere in my size. I was pissed. Corey says I look like Shia LaBeouf. I get that one a lot. I'm cool with it, but I don't really know how to deal with that one.
I can kind of see Luke Raley.
For you or me? Because I don't know who that is.
I get CJ Crone a lot, which is weird because we have the same birthday also.
Same parent?
Yeah. Yeah, somehow he got to be nearly a foot taller than me. Oh, and Ben Gamel, I think, is a reasonable one for me.
Oh my God, you're just naming a bunch of guys that I don't know what they look like. And don't be like, well, they look like me.
Yeah. No, they're just ones that I've Googled because chat has said it before.
I'll take little Josh Allen. That works for me.
I can see that a little bit.
Well, gladly. A's and Astros. I've killed enough time now. We've got 3 games to go. A's and Astros. 3-run implied total for Oakland. 3.7 for the Stros. Frankie Montas and Luis Garcia. No ownership going to Montas. 21% going to Luis Garcia. I think Luis Garcia is properly owned, although I will say I think Frankie Montas should be getting something higher than nothing, but I just don't know where I'm taking that from to get to him.
For Montas?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go deep enough into the game that I want to get there.
Okay.
He only threw 53 pitches last time out. I assume he's going to throw more than that, but I don't feel comfortable assuming he's just going to get, his 100 pitches again.
Do you think he would be getting any ownership if that were different today?
At
or is he just like
against Houston? Probably not.
Right. Like, should he get ownership? Probably a little. Are there 9 better options today? Like, he's not as good as Rodon, Nola, or McClanahan, and at that point in time, it becomes pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, and even the other side of that game, like Garcia certainly looks better against Oakland.
Josh looks like Big Ben mixed with Jay Cutler. Part of me loves that. I got comped to Big Ben like 2005. Shaved head. I was a little chunky at the time. So was Big Ben.
Didn't I say you look like Cutler in Chicago?
You might have. I've gotten that one before too.
Yeah, so I think I said it.
I know my wife would be real happy about that one. She was a big, very Cavallari watcher. And I would have been really
I
happy to be
laughed
him at that point too.
Ryan had said earlier, talking about your background, that you look like you were in an ISIS video. So I was laughing at you looking like the star in an ISIS terrorist video.
Star, man. I'd be the director. Let's talk Luis Garcia.
He just looks good. I think it's obviously a good matchup against Oakland. He's in Oakland, which is nice. He's getting the ownership he probably deserves, around 23%. He's like the fifth pitcher for me. You have Nola, McClanahan, Strider, then I think like a small gap to Rodon, and then a small gap to Garcia. But if I have a lineup where I have to go from Nola, McClanahan, or Rodon down to Garcia to save money and get a bat that I want, like, I don't really care all that much. The only real issue is that he does have a shorter leash than those guys for the most part. He's thrown over 100 pitches, I think, once in his last 10 starts. Houston typically just doesn't let him go quite as deep into the game into games, but he's also not that expensive. He's got about a 25 or 26% strikeout percentage this year. 26.3% strikeout percentage, 3.58 xFIP. He's just a good pitcher in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he's not even getting a little bit more love, like coming from Clevenger and Berrios, just because Oakland is shitty. This park is exceptional for pitching. I mean, this game is on a silver platter for Garcia. I think his floor is incredibly high here.
I mean, as high as baseball pitchers' floors can be.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's probably clearly the best matchup of the day. In terms of like shitty team, great park.
In terms of like park, team, and like good pitcher.
Right. Like you can't ask for much more than what he's about to get today. Like, we're not going to roster Oakland bats. And even if Luis Garcia were getting a bunch of ownership, like, I still wouldn't want Oakland bats in this spot, in this park. So what do you do with Houston, who's also not getting anything because they got Frankie Montas on the opposite side?
I don't have much interest in Houston outside of, they're kind of like the Yankees to me, I guess. I don't really want to target against Montas. I think he's really good. You're never going to be wrong for playing low-owned Houston, but also not a good park to hit in. And they're not cheap either. So I think it's just going to be difficult for me to get to the Astros.
All right. Well, let's head on to Diamondbacks and Giants. 3.6 run implied total for the Diamondbacks, 4.9 for the Giants. Tyler Gilbert and Carlos Rodon. Be really interested in Rodon's ownership if this game were in San Francisco. Alas, it is in Arizona. No ownership to Gilbert, 26% ownership to Rodon. I think he looks really good. I think it's a good spot for him against Arizona, who's not very good. He's just like a half step behind Nolan McClanahan for me.
Yeah, like there would be a lot of iterations of this slate where Rodon's the clear number one pitcher, but he just happens to be pitching on the same day as Strider and McClanahan, so that knocks him down. 30.8% strikeout percentage is third highest on the slate behind those two who are just way ahead of him. 3.18 xFIP is really good. Not as good as Strider, McClanahan, Nola, but still really good. And it's still a solid park to pitch in. Roof closed, I'm assuming, in Arizona. So
I hope so.
Yeah, I feel really bad for the fans if it isn't. So yeah, like Carlos Rodon looks good. I expect to be getting to him. I don't think he looks quite as good as those other three.
And then from a bats perspective, we got to talk Giants here. 5th in top stack, 1st in top value, 3rd in aggregate ownership. This is my number one team in our stack score metric. They were 4th and 2nd for me in top stack and top value, respectively. I get to the Giants a lot, and I think that I'm going to get to them again. I'm just a little nervous because they're facing a lefty, what we might see later on in the game. Yeah,
that's the issue, and it's so difficult to talk about here because, like, you're going at some point to probably get Slater and Ruff at the very least pinch hit for. But if they get pinch hit for in, like, the 8th inning, like happened the other day against the Dodgers, it sucks, but also kind of whatever. But they're also really, really cheap. So that helps to make up for it. It's baked into projections too, which, we've talked about a lot, that, it's not like good projection systems are expecting these guys to hit 5 times and then suddenly they're getting pinch hit for after 3 at bats.
Right.
So the fact that they're so cheap still makes them look good. Individually, I really like Wilmer Flores because they'll leave him in to face right-handed pitching as well. Yerman Mercedes at 2K flat. Like, yeah, maybe he gets pinch hit for, but he's 2K flat batting cleanup against Gilbert. So far in Gilbert's career, which dates back to last year, 14.5% strikeout percentage against righties with a 256 expected ISO. It's just a really tricky spot because, like, I don't want to just ignore a couple at bats from 3K guys facing Tyler Gilbert, but I also don't really want my stack getting pinch hit for when they go to a righty out of the bullpen.
So what's your expectation here?
That I get to the Giants and end up being pissed off when they get pinch hit for.
That's fair. That'll work. Guys, hit that like button one last time. Let's see if we can get to 250. We're almost at 1,000 viewers. I don't want to say guys. We're 971 viewers, so like 966 guys. Diamondbacks Bats doesn't seem like we're doing that one.
Yeah, no, I don't see it for the Diamondbacks.
2 to go. 4.5 run implied total for the Mariners. 3.7 for the Rangers. George Kirby and Dane Dunning. No ownership to Dunning. 10% ownership to Kirby. And as far as I could tell, that seems about right.
Yeah, seems fine. It's another spot where, on different slates, I think maybe you would get a little bit more Kirby. He's a really good pitcher. He's walking 3.3% of hitters this year, which is ridiculously low. Striking out 22.6%, 3.44 xFIP. Very highly regarded pitching prospect, pitching in a very favorable pitcher's park. The Rangers offense is a little bit above average in terms of production, but there are some strikeouts in there as well. It really just comes down to, in a lot of lineups, like if I've saved ownership, if I'm playing hitters that aren't that popular, and especially on a 13-game slate where nobody's really that popular, I'm just going to end up getting to more of Strider at that price range, and when I can, getting up to Nola, McClanahan, Rodon. So that's just naturally going to drive down Kirby's ownership and exposure a bit, but still looks very, very good here.
Yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches at pitcher today, and it's hard to want to talk about Kirby and then also just be like, hey, I ran out of ownership because he's my 7th best pitcher, and it's just like them's the breaks. But I'd be happy to get to Kirby. I just don't know how much it's going to actually happen. We're not going to talk about Dunning. Mariners are 15th in ownership. Rangers are 16th. That's about where they are in top stacks. So nothing here.
Yeah, I don't really have much there. We're not playing Kirby on FanDuel. I think you still can. He was. Yeah, I had him in my.
We got a FanDuel super chat that I got to hit on, but keep going.
I had Kirby as the number 3 guy in my tournament video earlier. He's not a priority in the sense that, like, if you're playing 150 lineups, you would just be jamming George Kirby in a lot. But he is projected to go a little bit under-owned. He does still have a nice ceiling, and he does give you a little bit of a salary discount there, especially, like where McClanahan's 11.5 compared to Kirby, who is 8,600. So you can play him. He's not somebody that, like, to me, it's kind of just comparable to DraftKings, except, one pitcher instead of 2. But he's somebody where, he's a good play. You're just probably not playing tons of him, but like in an individual lineup, he's still a good play.
Nick had a super chat a little bit ago. He said, late to the show, thoughts on Berrios one lineup on FanDuel. He wouldn't be my first choice. I don't see like a gigantic problem with it, but
right,
it also seems like unnecessary.
He's kind of like George Kirby. I'm not going into like a FanDuel single entry lineup and saying like, all right, let's put Berrios in and then figure out what stacks I'm going to play. It's more so if I put together some team I really like, like a 4-4, double stack, really like my hitters, and I have $8,900, so I can't quite get to Strider. I don't want to change anything. If that happens, sure, Berrios is fine. Ideally, I just find the money for Strider if I'm in that price range.
I'm with you. Like, he doesn't break a lineup. I don't freak out if I see it. He's the last thing in, not the first thing in for me.
Right.
You ready to close this one out? I know I am, because I would have pissed so bad. Dodgers and Nats. 5.3 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3.5 for the Nats. Mitch White and Josiah Gray. Neither guy getting any ownership. Will you roster either of these pitchers?
No. Josiah Gray, 9,200, kind of a Taiwan Walker type price tag there, where it's just like, how the hell did we land on this with him facing the Dodgers? He does have good strikeout stuff. He's striking out 27% of hitters. That's the 5th highest strikeout percentage on the slate, but allowing more than 2 home runs per 9 innings, walking about 10% of hitters. 4.18 xFIP is, okay. Just a really scary spot against the Dodgers. Not a team you want to be working from behind in the count against and putting extra guys on base. 270 expected ISO to lefties this year for Gray. 158 to righties is certainly more manageable, but Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, those guys aren't your typical righties. But from the left side, you have Freeman, you have a cheap Jake Lamb, I assume will be in the lineup. Muncy, we've talked about that. I think he's going to be better going forward than he has been to this point. Lux and Bellinger should be relatively low owned. So really, really like left-handed power for the Dodgers here against Gray.
Yeah, they are 6th in ownership, 2nd in top stack. I had them 3rd. This is a team that I certainly want to get to. I'm not all that worried about Josiah Gray, other than the fact that he does miss some bats. I don't have a ton of interest in going to the Washington Nationals side of this one, however.
No, me neither. They're just not a particularly appealing offense. Mitch White so far this year, 133 expected ISO to lefties, 139 to righties. His overall numbers aren't that great. 18.5% strikeout percentage, 4.6 xFIP, but it's kind of just what it normally is with Washington. If you want to play Juan Soto, go for it. If you get to some Josh Bell, that's okay, but he's pretty expensive now. The biggest thing to say about the Nats, I think, is don't forget to leave yourself extra time to deal with Luis Garcia.
I was just going to say, and if you happen to get to a bunch of Luis Garcia, make sure you didn't put the wrong projection in and find out that he was the pitcher, and that's why you have 25% of him or something.
Yep.
All right, let's sum it all up. Favorite stacks for today?
Colorado, White Sox, Dodgers.
All righty. And then favorite pitchers?
Me and everybody else. Strider, McClanahan, Nola, Rodon, Garcia.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Nope.
All righty then, folks. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button on your way out the door, but don't leave. Don't actually leave that door. Just poke your head out and watch Eric and Greg walk their way back in, because MLB Live Before Lock is next on this stream. You don't have to do a thing. Just stay here, wait a couple of minutes. They will start it up and take you all the way to 7:05. Good luck tonight, everybody. Talk to you again tomorrow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks here on the Odd Shopper channel. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking through Tuesday. What is going to be July 26th, MLB slate. We got 15 games on tap. I'm looking forward to it. But first, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell for me. That way you can be apprised of whenever great content is going live here at the Odd Shopper channel. But also, take advantage of that BetMGM promo. We have promo code Lindy going on right there. I have my own promo code. I feel cool sometimes, but not all the time, because I make lame jokes once in a while too. But not lame is free $200 when you sign up over there. Simply bet $10. You will get that in your account using promo code Lindy. Use the video description box below. Click on that link and head there now. But guys, we got a lot of baseball to talk, so let's just get to it. Here are my picks for July 26th. Alrighty, let's get this Tuesday started with Bucks Cubbies. That is the Pirates and the Cubs. For anybody who's uninformed, the Bucks, that is a nickname given to the Pirates. But anyway, the afternoon matinee at Wrigley, that's what we're looking for. And totals are really slow to move out here because of the wind factor, the wind shift that can change drastically the way that this ballpark plays. And why is that so important to me from a betting perspective? Well, not just with the totals, because the totals will be pretty efficient. Most of the time, obviously, we're trying to target the inefficiencies and bet the overs and unders at times when they're inefficient. But it's very important to me because Keegan Thompson is very good at limiting damage in a prominent way compared to Bryce Wilson. So if you get this ballpark playing neutral, this is going to be a strong upgrade just backing Keegan Thompson. And if the wind turns out and is turning it into a hitter's park, pretty much anyone aside from Chris Davis, if everybody remembers him from Baltimore, he's about the only guy who isn't capable of hitting a home run out there because he just strike out a million times. And I'm being a little facetious, except for Chris Davis really would not hit home runs out there. But if it's a neutral Wrigley win spot, I could see myself aggressively attacking the -1.5 run line, giving and just laying the 1.5 runs with the Cubbies. But I think it's just an easy call to go the money line route. I'm going to be going the Cubs liking the money line route because you have one pitcher in Thompson with a 233 expected batting average and a 375 expected slugging. And then it's a 300 expected batting average and a 472 expected slugging with Wilson. I like the chalk here. I don't really know what else to say. I still think that number should be a little bit higher than like the -165 range that we're staring at here. So I'm going to give it a like right from the get-go on the Cubbies. Well, Cincinnati was shot out of a cannon and hung up double digits on the Marlins in game 1 of this series, completely deflating my small underplay. But such is baseball. We're back on the grind with 2 pitchers. I don't know if I could possibly be higher on long-term. And I say that long-term, mainly for Hunter Green, because everybody. Welcome to the MLB Live Before Lock show presented by Odd Chopper. Eric Lindquist in the house here talking a little baseball. Excited for it. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. All of that goes a really long way for us over here at the Odd Chopper channel, the Stokastic channel, all these great channels that provide a lot of great content. It's A-plus stuff. I guarantee you'll love the rundown. Greg, how you doing, my dude?
That's good. Just, nice to hang out with you again, Ron. But so, something I've been in beefs on Twitter all day because that's really my element. That's all. And I know Eric wanted nothing to do with this. He's like, I don't want to be. I was talking to him earlier. He's like, I don't want to be a part of this.
I'm a nose to the grindstone kind of guy. All I do is work, make money, and move on with my life. And Greg is like, nope, pause. We're going to it. We're going to YouTube. We're going to Twitter. Hell, we'll go to Facebook where the real craziness could go down.
And I assume there's probably nobody who's watching this that really knows what it is that I'm referencing here. But more or less, Eric does his video every day where he does picks. He picks all the games, and somebody is like, hey, that's what I do. I pick games. Nobody else is allowed to do it. So this guy thinks he's the originator of all content. Nobody else could do anything similar. So nobody else should be doing betting picks on Twitter. He's the first person to ever do free picks. Nobody else should do free picks. But anyway, I've been going back and forth with this guy on Twitter all day because what the fuck do I have better to do? I got to go back and forth with people on Twitter. And I mean, the guy's like a 5th grade dropout. He could barely read or write. So he doesn't know what the word victim means. Everything he says is really confusing, but I had a great time with it. And we are at war with this YouTube channel now.
No, we're not. You are. I'm not. I want no part of this.
War.
I'm okay. Okay, cool. I'll be the guy playing the drums, like a Revolutionary War, just walking down. I could be the flute guy. I could be the drum guy. I'll carry the flag, but I will not be shooting at anything.
The funniest, by the way, the funniest part about this whole thing, and then we can talk about DFS, because I know you really don't want to talk about this, but I very much do.
I know.
But the thing that's funniest to me is the people that are kind of the center of this is you and this other guy, Ron, who I would never intentionally make fun of publicly, right? I only make fun of him in our private group chat constantly. I would never do it publicly ever. But his mom tweeted at me and asked me to stop, which I also thought was really funny.
Greg, we could have just started the show, done what we've done for 2.5 years, which is give the people free picks. That's what we do for 2.5 hours, literally every day, all the time. I'm perplexed by the world, but you know what? We continue on. We soldier on. This is just insane. Larry C. Oh man, Greggy, give up. Take Eric's advice. Walk away. Yeah, no, it is what it is. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. A lot of people don't know what we're talking about. We got almost 900 people here hanging out. I suppose we should talk some baseball because that's what I like to do. Talk baseball. We can make some jokes though along the way. There's no doubt about it. I hope everybody's having a splendid day. I'm a beacon of positivity in this world, regardless of what anybody wants to do to me. So here we go. Greg, right off the bat, how does this slate look to you?
A lot different than yesterday's slate, mostly because we have good pitchers to choose from. And that was not something that existed yesterday. We had Zach Greinke ended up being one of the higher scoring pitchers on this slate. And I had to take a big fat L on that because yesterday, I don't know if Sean V is in chat right now, but yesterday on the strategy show, Adam and I are there, and Sean V was insistent that Zach Greinke had a good game against the Angels against them last August. Therefore, he was going to pitch well against them yesterday. And guess what? He was right. Adam and I were on the wrong side of that. But today we actually have good pitchers to talk about because we got Aaron Nola, Shane McClanahan, Carlos Rodon, Luis Garcia, Spencer Strider, our guy. And then there's some contrarian options to get to also. A contrarian option I like today that you are absolutely going to hate. But it's a good slate for pitching.
Jose Barrios.
Yeah. I knew you're going to know it. You were going to figure it out right away.
I knew immediately what you were getting at. Here's the thing. Joke's on you. I have a little bit. It's hard not to against St. Louis in this lineup. But here we go. Let's dig into it, my friend, starting with pitching. I think we just talked with the 210K guys right off the bat. Aaron Nola and Shane McClanahan. They're both projected within 2 fantasy points of each other here at Stokastic. Still, there's a little bit of a chasm that Aaron Nola is starting to get. Shane McClanahan, oh boy, oh no. He gave up a couple runs in the All-Star game in 1 inning. I don't give a shit. He's been awesome this entire season. Aaron Nola, this is a very dangerous Atlanta team. We're going to be talking about this same scenario again tomorrow, kind of in reverse with Charlie Morton going up against Philly. But as it stands right now, Pick one if you're building one lineup, Nola or McClanahan.
Yeah, McClanahan. And I'm really confused by the ownership. And I'm hoping maybe you have an explanation for that.
I don't, because McClanahan's my highest owned pitcher. So there you go. Well, Strider is number 1 and he's 2.
So FanDuel, at least you could say, like, hey, McClanahan's 11,600. He's considerably more expensive than any other pitcher on the slate. I don't think that warrants Nola being 28% owned when we've got McClanahan down at 9% and we have fairly similar top pitcher odds on the two of them. But for DraftKings purposes, I really struggle to figure out how Nola is picking up 50% more ownership than McClanahan when you got McClanahan here in 28% of the field's lineups right now in our projections, Nola at 40%. And I don't want to make it seem like Nola is somebody that I wouldn't project well. Like, I think he's almost always a good option, and the Braves are a team that strike out a whole bunch. But McClanahan's probably been the best pitcher in baseball this year. He's been consistently very good in all of his starts. To your point, is it the All-Star game that's driving down his ownership? That would seem silly to me. And by the way, something that was equally ridiculous, his last start before the All-Star game, the Rays took him out early because they wanted him to be fresh to pitch in the All-Star game, which I thought was totally ridiculous, especially because I had a bunch of exposure to him on that day. But that aside, he's been so consistently good this year. He has a pretty favorable matchup against the Baltimore Orioles. The weather is much more moderate on the East Coast. This isn't the 100-degree weather we've been dealing with the last 10 days. It's hot, summer hot, but like normal weather. So I just don't see a case for Nola over McClanahan to the point where Nola would be this much more popular. So if they were the same ownership, I would like McClanahan. And now when you get McClanahan at significantly reduced ownership, I think he's a better play in tournaments by a wide margin.
Yeah, here's what it comes down to. I head over to OddsShopper, obviously the presenting sponsor here of the show. You can click on every game by game. You can click by statistic. You can click by everything you possibly want to sort it by. It's incredible. Bert doing a great job over there behind the scenes, helping everybody at OddsShopper have some really great betting tools to be utilizing constantly. We've got Aaron Nola with an 8 projection, over of 7.5. It's juice minus 105, 56% win percentage, 9% expected ROI. I'm not saying bet that by any means. But what I'm saying is that we haven't projected for 8 strikeouts. Then you click over and look at Shane McClanahan, and it comes down to, oh, okay, well, he's projected for 6.9. The under 7.5 looks all right. So we haven't projected 1 strikeout away. Who do you think is a more potent offense day in, day out in these hitting environments, in these conditions? I'm going to be taking, especially when it's a lefty on the mound, the boundaries have gone, 20 feet out in Camden Yards out to left. Who do you think gives up more earned runs if you play this out 100 times? Aaron Nola or Shane McClanahan?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Nola. It's such an easier matchup for McClanahan.
It's so much easier. So 1 projection, 1 strikeout projection, I get that can move the needle. It's within 2 fantasy points, but that is so asinine that you're going to get them 15% away to me.
Yeah, and it's not just Nola versus McClanahan. Nola has a more difficult matchup than all of the spend-ups on the slate. He's far more popular than all of them. Nola's pitching against the Braves. McClanahan's pitching against the Orioles. Rodon is pitching against the Diamondbacks. Luis Garcia is pitching against the A's. Those are the pay-up options. Then Strider, I think you can make a case that Strider's matchup against the Phillies, well, the Phillies still an easier matchup, I think, than the Braves, although Strider's on the road, but there's also a significant price difference there. Strider's way cheaper, also picking up less ownership. So, if we were not even considering ownership, I think I'd probably have Nola behind all of those guys. And it's not a knock on Nola. It's just all these other pitchers are also really good with a lot of strikeout upside and in easier matchups.
Yeah, I get we haven't projected higher. I think this might be where I disagree a little bit. I kind of understand why Nola has a higher projection than McClanahan. Can we at least understand that? I suppose just looking at Atlanta's lineup, more strikeouts to be had overall, but you're still just going to project them within 1 strikeout. But I get why Nola's getting the higher projection, but the ownership is just pulling me so much further. I've got double on McClanahan, and I'm below the field on 40% Aaron Nola, and I don't think there's really a case to be made to being overweight to that.
Yeah, no, not at all. And maybe when lineups actually come out, we'll see his ownership a little bit lower than expected, but I don't know. It just seems like he's going to be really popular, and there's a lot of pitching options to get to on the slate. There's a lot of good guys at the top end, and McClanahan is going to be my favorite right now. And, right now we've got Arcathelza saying in the chat, fade McClanahan, that any obvious pitcher in baseball is bad, but he isn't the obvious play according to the field. This isn't who the field is rostering.
Exactly. The field's rostering Aaron Nola in bulk, and I get it, but I don't get it at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like, he's at the top of our tools. He's at the top of everything that we're doing here today, but I am much more inclined to be playing McClanahan in one lineup than what I am Aaron Nola. And I don't think it's really that close for me. Maybe we'll get to lock. We'll see them around the same ownership, but even then, I think I'm going to land on McClanahan more times than not, just from what I think that floor looks like with the combination. Maybe the ceiling isn't as high as Nola, but God, is the floor low on Aaron Nola going up against Atlanta. So I got to be playing that out. The guy I want to talk about is our boy. And yes, our boy, because you made me bet a future on him when I was across the border. I loved it. How are we handling Spencer Strider here today? Because 8,700 is a ridiculous price tag on DK.
Yeah, I think that points per dollar. I think that he's a very, very strong option to get to. And considering his strikeout rate, it's ridiculous. He primarily only throws a fastball as a plus pitch. It's not like he has a plethora of pitches he throws out there. Good vocab word that not everybody I've engaged with on Twitter has. But when it comes to Spencer Strider at $8,700 on DK, he has a strikeout rate of nearly 40%. And hitters know the fastball is coming, and it just doesn't matter because he throws so hard. I mean, starting pitchers sometimes touching 102 miles per hour. And I just don't know at 8,700 that he should ever be at this price point. So to me, the two best pitching options just overall on this slate are Shane McClanahan and Spencer Strider. There have been valleys for Strider. There's been times where he's been in good matchups and he just has struggled. He's been inefficient, hasn't had his best stuff. So I do think there is some risk to him because he's on the road in a hitter-friendly ballpark. The Phillies don't have a bad offense, but he's just too cheap when you consider that the strikeout rate is nearly 40%.
I'm with you. We are playing we're playing Spencer Strider. We're lower on Aaron Nola. We're higher on Shane McClanahan. You and I are kind of handling the top of the board the same. Now is where it gets strange because we get into this, if you're playing 150 lineups, if you're playing the 20 max, if you're playing anything else, we do want to find ways to get different, especially if you are so bold as to say, oh, I want to go roster the White Sox no matter what. I want to go roster Boston no matter what. I want to go roster, I guess, who else has got massive negative leverage? Cleveland, just refresh Tampa Bay. If you want to be playing some of these more popular teams, you better find ways to get off of Strider, definitely off of Nola, and even Shane McClanahan's pulling quite a bit of ownership. That's where you start getting into this tier of 9K guys, Rodon, Garcia, down into the 8K range with Mike Clevenger, George Kirby. Where do you find yourself landing in the 9 and 8K range the most, Greg?
Well, I mean, the answer is, does Strider not count here?
Oh, I mean, Strider absolutely counts, but I'm saying 9-8. I was taking those three off the board. If you want to be rostering a chalkier offense, you got to find ways to get away from Nola, Strider, McClanahan to some extent, or you better just be, getting very contrarian on how you're stacking it up, what you're doing with your secondary stack, so on and so forth. But curious if there was anybody else that tickled your fancy in the 9 or 8K range.
Ooh, tickled my fancy. So not really. I mean, it's hard to, like, Luis Garcia does, but he's one of the chalk options. So I assume we're not really counting him. And then the other guys. So Frankie Montas, just immediate write-off because he's expensive matchup against the Astros. And he only went 3 innings in his last start after a long layoff. So I think we have to take him off the table just because I don't think he's going to work very deep into the game, really cuts in any kind of upside he has. Taiwan Walker doesn't have all that much strikeout upside. Is also pitching against the Yankees. Not something I'm enamored with. Then we have Josiah Gray at $9,200 pitching against the Dodgers on the road. That's never a great spot. And we have the Dodgers as being one of the more likely teams to be a top scoring team on the slate. So if we're going to differentiate a pitching, I just don't think this is the price range to do it.
Okay. Well, let's find the price range to do it, shall we? Welcome to the 7K range. You said it before. He's sitting at 7,900, and Jose Barrios gets a watered down, non-Arenado, non-Goldschmidt situation here. This was what kind of led me to, before the season started, being in on Toronto, was you're going to get massively, massively downgraded offenses when they have to travel to Canada. Boy, do we have that in spades today. How much Barrios do you have?
Yeah, I think as far as contrarian pitching options go, he's the best one to get to. And here's where I think you and I have to give him credit, because we've made fun of him a lot, but it's also some of it's been tongue in cheek because he clearly has upside as a pitcher, and he's pitched much better as of late heading into the All-Star break. He's just been inconsistent, and his downswings have been so terrible where he's been in good matchups and he's really gotten lit up. But in this spot against the Cardinals, and I'm going to read off what their lineup looks like. So with no Arenado and no Goldschmidt in the lineup, and this is, as is, it's a pretty top-heavy lineup. They have guys that make contact that aren't necessarily great hitters, so sometimes the strikeouts could be difficult to come across against them. But it's Edman, Carlson, Tyler O'Neill. The rest of the lineup after that is Albert Pujols, Brendan Donovan, Nolan Gorman, who Gorman is a really highly regarded prospect. He got off to a great start. He sucked over the last month and a half or so now. Then it's Lars Nootbaar and Andrew Kanizer. So this is a really, really weak lineup that the Cardinals have without Goldschmidt and Arenado in the mix. And I think we could see Berrios take advantage of it. And then also just talking about the point I had before, I'm going to bring up his game log for a second. I don't know what was wrong with him before. Like, he hasn't made any kind of real noticeable changes in his pitch mix or anything like that. I do wonder if he was tipping his pitches kind of like what Kevin Gausman was doing, and he's figured it out, because even if he was never a guy that I considered a high-end starter, he's always been good, right? He's never been a guy he's a replacement level player overall this year. If you look at the totality of the stats, 5.22 ERA, expected ERA, and FIP around the same. So worth 0.4 wins above replacement. But his most recent starts, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 runs, a great start against the Phillies where he pitched 6 innings and struck out 13 hitters. They need a couple of easier matchups against the A's and the Rays, where he gave up a total of 3 earned runs in those 2 starts. So you look at the last 4 starts, the walks are in check, the strikeouts are way up, and the runs are down. And now he's got this matchup against the watered down Cardinals lineup. I find it really hard to get away from him, especially when the field just isn't getting there.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working on Lindy's Lowdown, as we were getting ready for this show, definitely was firing it up. I got no reaction from you. That was a joke, but it's okay.
Unfortunately, I don't get the picks from your video. I go to this guy, Ron. It's really similar, actually, the videos, but I kind of prefer his analysis.
So when I was working on Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks leading into today, I will just say what it is. I'm just kind of had in the background a little bit of the last show, and Adam brought up the same thing where, hey, if Jose Berrios is tipping his pitches and now he is not, you could just be looking at a completely different picture. I mean, might just be something going on with Toronto in general. I mean, Gausman had the massive 40-foot glove that he was wearing on his hand that made him look like, I don't know, Edward Scissorhands with a glove on, just doing his thing. And then Berrios, 490 expected slugging. I mean, he's just given up crazy power, 353 xWOBA. He's never been a guy who went out of his way to go walk anybody. He had a crazy high walk rate when he came into the majors back in 2015, 16, like the beginning, his inception of the Twins career. What I remember from Jose Berrios, and he had a rough go of it that first season. Last year, strikeout rate was a career high, and this year definitely tailed back off again, but he's got the walks under control. So that just means he was giving up a ton of contact. And if he's not going to be doing that, if he's going to start missing bats again, this is the time to find out again. You got the Kansas City lineup, which is a huge upgrade for him. It's the same kind of thing he's running into with St. Louis. A lot of these Toronto pitchers, I feel like you just have to give them a bump up because there's going to be a piece or two missing. And there's no 2 bigger pieces on any baseball team, outside of maybe Judge and Stanton, that you're going to have other than Goldschmidt and Arenado for St. Louis. So I'm with you. I have 9% of him, which is, I don't know, the biggest stance I've ever taken on Jose Berrios. So he's not a complete write-off for me.
So you're underweight to him then, though?
Yeah, he's got 9.6%. I'm just saying I have some. I never get to him.
Yeah, I think he's worth being overweight to the field. So
I might be. After everything you said, I think I might have to rerun some stuff and get to around 15-20%. I think that I can get behind it. I mean, look at this lineup. It is just bad.
And I mean, the other thing to consider too, so Berrios is currently projected for 9% ownership on DraftKings and 2% on FanDuel. And just in the interest of trying to find pitchers that are sub 10% owned right now, there's none that I like outside of him. Like, is there a single other sub 10% owned pitcher that you think we should be backing? Because I can't find anybody I like.
I mean, I got one guy. You're not going to like it. I bet. Can you guess it? He's sub 8K. Only guy sub 8K I think you can make a case for.
I don't know. Ethan Small, just for that the salary savings.
Yeah. Well, it's not just salary savings, but Ethan Small, they've been looking for like a 5th starter here for quite some time for Milwaukee. Obviously, with Freddie Peralta out, that kind of put a wrench into their plans. But he's the 6th ranked prospect, and we basically have one 2 starts of a sample size for Ethan Small, 1 sample size. It's a guy who in AAA was missing enough bats, not that he was in some kind of a crazy way missing bats, but a 26.4% K percentage isn't nothing. A 4.10 whip at that level this season, a 1.24 whip. And you get, of course, Miguel Sano back in this Minnesota lineup. The big man himself, good Lord, strikes out at a crazy clip. Literally got sent to Florida to go work out and get in shape and still pretty much isn't there, but such is life. You get Buxton. As much as I love him, 30% K percentage on the season. So it's a very feast or famine type spot here. If he can get by at the top of the lineup, Buxton, if he can get by Carlos Correa, who's mashing the baseball and getting not a whole hell of a lot for it this season, there are some strikeout opportunities there. Gary Sanchez at the back half of the lineup, 2 batting 8th. Alex Kirilloff left on left, higher strikeout rate versus lefties. Kyle Garlick, 24.5%. I think there's a case that can be made where just because of the price and because of the opportunity where if he goes out and strikes out 25% of batters at the big league level, which I don't expect, I'd expect it to be more in like the 22%. But if it carries over, this is a decent enough strikeout matchup for him.
Yeah, I could see the case for it, especially given the ownership and the price point on him. If you're really looking to spend up at offense, the salary savings aren't totally necessary. Just we don't need to regurgitate the same conversation about how DraftKings has totally nerfed the pricing of pitchers. But if you are in a situation where it's like, hey, I'm building a lineup here and I absolutely need to punt to save salary at pitcher, I don't know that there's anybody else that I would consider in that price range to your point other than him.
To close the loop, we didn't talk about Mike Clevinger. I think it should at least be discussed for a quick second. Detroit, dead last in WRC plus against right-handed pitching, 67. That doesn't even seem real. They have a 24.1% strikeout rate against them. But Mike Clevinger, it's not like he's some 30% K rate guy. I'm curious if you have any kind of a take for him, because I think he might be a guy who ends up more popular than we think.
So his ownership is about double what it was this morning when Ab and I did the strategy show together. So I actually liked both him and Jose Barrios as contrarian pitching options earlier. That's not necessarily the case. I can't call Clevinger a contrarian pitching option because he has ownership now, but his numbers are good this year. 3.5 ERA, 3.61 expected ERA. He does have a 25% K rate. So that's all stuff that looks solid across the board. And the Tigers just suck against right-hand pitching. I know they're not great against left-hand pitching either, and they ended up destroying Sean Manaea last night.
They had 100 WRC plus. They've inflated that thing in a drastic way. I was all over the Tigers, and you know what? Didn't get shit for it, but that was fun.
Cool. What do you mean by didn't get shit for it?
I mean, I barely won any money. I had like 9% Tiger stacks on FanDuel.
Interesting. What pitcher did you end up backing?
A lot of the bad ones. That would be the right answer.
Well, that was almost all of them. That was almost all of them yesterday, other than our guy.
Merrill Kelly, I had on DK. I didn't play him on FanDuel. Oopsie. So I needed to find some paths there. And then DK, I was pretty happy with the way the pitcher worked out. I just didn't have any Tigers that I needed over there. So if I could have just taken all of that shit and put it together, yeah, I would have won something. But I was going back and forth with Adam last night where it's just like, you have some of those nights where the pricing works out one way. You're like, oh, I don't probably need to do it over here. Well, if you have a hunch on something that could happen that the field's not recognizing it, and you have like a catcher who's batting fifth, if you have Miguel Cabrera, who's super cheap and allows you to get up to pitching you might like, maybe you should do it on both sites, Eric. Just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, in general, if you like pitcher or player on one side, there's a good chance you're going to like him on the other side as well. But anyway, to bring the conversation back to Clevinger, I do like him. But if I'm rostering a pitcher in this price range, I'd rather go to Barrios for half the ownership.
I would agree with that. I like that, which is I'm getting to 18%. Look at that. I literally doubled it overnight. The magic of Fantasy Cruncher, where you can definitely get access to that here through the Stokastic tools and content here. You can add that onto your package. But as it stands right now, if you want the Stokastic Platinum Pass, which I strongly suggest for the top batters tool, the top stacks tool, everything you could possibly want, today free for you is the MLB player projections. So check those out. But most importantly, we have MMA going strong. Live final week here this weekend for our boy Adam Scher. Ship my money going to Dallas. Best of luck to him. But use this promo code MLB Live to get 50% off, not just MLB, but PGA, MMA, top drivers tool, everything you could possibly want for NASCAR, F1 racing, esports. We've got some great offerings coming out, bringing some guys on board to help us out in that department. Going to be some awesome stuff coming down the pipeline here at Stokastic. And if you want to be a part of it now, which I strongly suggest, because might seem like the dog days of summer, but you guys are going to miss some MLB. You're going to really be missing this in 2 months, I think. Well, NFL, everybody's excited for, but I promise you, there's a lot of money to be had still today, on DK FanDuel. And the best way to do that is to get access to these tools and content, to these projections, these ownership projections day in, day out. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us at Stokastic and do it with 50% off your first week using promo code MLB Live. Cool. Greg, my favorite question of the day. The people must know, who is your single entry team to stack up tonight?
All right, so let me refresh the ownerships to see what's changed. I'm also waiting on starting lineups because the one I need the most is the Rockies, and that's the team I was inclined to answer, but we're still waiting on their lineup, I'm pretty sure, unless it came out in the last couple of minutes, which it did not. So my answer is tentatively the Rockies at home, Coors Field. It's funny because Coors Field, if there's a shitty pitcher at Coors, I rarely end up rostering the offenses very much. But when you get a good pitcher at Coors Field, they end up on the offenses because nobody plays them. When you get these spots where it's Coors Field, and let's say it's just a mediocre to bad pitcher that's at Coors Field, the offense are going to be like 30 to 35% owned. Then you throw a pitcher out there like Michael Kopech, who I don't even think has been that good this year. He's been decent, but underwhelming on the whole. And just people like, cool, we're not playing the Rockies in this spot. So we're getting the Rockies at sub 5% ownership as a stack. I love that number. We're getting a team with as much upside as normal. The odds of them hitting that upside are slightly lower because it's not a total trash can pitcher, but it's a good spot for them. We have them with the third highest top stack odds on the slate. The field isn't really getting there. So I think this is the contrarian team to get to. I'm just kind of waiting on the lineup to see who's in it or not, because we don't have that lineup yet. And Connor Joe's a little banged up right now. Jose Iglesias left last night's game early with a knee injury. Or foot injury. He fouled the ball off his foot, if I remember correctly. So I need to see the starting lineup to know exactly which guys I like and just make sure it's not a total, backups lineup that the Rockies are throwing out there. But as things stand now, I do like them quite a bit.
Yeah, you could play. San Francisco, there's some cheap bats. You could go to Seattle. You could go to the Dodgers. You could have smatterings of those teams. And I think you could turn those into whatever the Colorado Rockies lineup shows up as. I hope it comes out after lock. That would be awesome because this is definitely the team that I have the most interest in today. And I went on a deep dive on Michael Kopech last night. And you do expect pitchers when they go from being a very successful bullpen arm, which, he missed 2 years. 2 years. Michael Kopech didn't pitch, Tommy John surgery. And then I think he sat out for COVID. I can't remember what it was, but I think that's what it was in 2020. Anyway, came back in 2021, 2.83 expected ERA, 36.1% K percentage in a pretty similar sample size to what we have now. He had 1,154 pitches in just short of 1,400 pitches this season. That's fallen off almost 15% to 21.6% in the K percentage department. And out of the middle of nowhere is walking tons of batters. His location has not been good this season. 12.3% walk rate. To boot, the ERA at 3.36. He has been pretty damn lucky this year. It should be more around a 3.87 expected ERA. Pretty much everything is pointing me in the direction that Michael Kopech is not who we think he was. In the words of Danny Green, rip city to him. We are who we thought they were. Well, Kopech is not. So I think I'm with you where I want this Rockies lineup to come out as late as possible because it's a massive slate. There's lots of places to go. And I'm okay if I have to land on some Dodgers. I'm okay if I have to land on some San Francisco, even though there's a lot of pitch hit risk. But I will say with Mercedes DHing instead of having to catch, I think there's some ways where this is still going to work out pretty favorably for us, where I think we can kind of predict who the guys from that lineup are that are going to get pitch hit for and who is not.
Yeah. And let me see. Do we have that lineup, right?
We're in Pat. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
He's said no lies.
Hit the like button, everybody. 1,000 people here watching. Just enjoy Eric. Another day ending in Y, where Eric's getting trolled by everybody. And I'm in the crossfires. We're just like always. Just welcome to another day here at Stokastic, the punching bag that is Eric Lindquist at your service.
And why wouldn't it be? We're just having fun around here. And the other thing too is I think we're getting close to Sean V being the co-host. I just saying, it's fingers crossed.
I have nothing to say. Let's talk other stacks. How about that? So we're waiting.
You wouldn't have him in here as a third seat to just fire off some hot takes from time to time.
I would rather get punched in the face repeatedly.
Oh, we could do that too.
Probably happen anyway.
Yeah,
it'll be like Fight Club. I just wanted to destroy something beautiful. Everybody just takes their turn. McCormick leading off today for Houston. Okay, so no Altuve. You've got McCormick leading off. That's an interesting lineup. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna try to bet Oakland really, really quick.
Let's see. So McCormick, Pena, Alvarez, Tucker's back in the line. I don't know if you noticed this. It seems like Houston rotates one guy getting a day off every day now.
Sure do. They shouldn't do that because then you lose games unnecessarily like last night. How about that?
Yeah, the division sucks though.
I know. And they're gonna walk in. They're gonna literally walk through. I mean, Seattle is still a billion games back after they just nuked them in Seattle the other weekend.
Seattle won 16 games in a row to bring them within 12 games of the Astros.
Isn't that absurd? I saw something on MLB TV talking about how absurd that is, how good Houston is, and makes sense to me. But yeah, Altuve getting the day of rest here. Lindy's London Bridge. You guys are out of your damn mind. If you're on the show, do you have to show your face? Yes, you absolutely do, Eric Johnson. So Team Eric, you'll be fine. You're a beautiful lad. But we continue. Other teams that you might want to be stacking up on today's slate, Greg. There are some very popular ones. I know that we try to get away from some of these guys. Tampa Bay, Boston, White Sox, Milwaukee. Milwaukee's just popular every single day. And against Bundy, I get it. Less so today, I suppose. But any of these chalky teams appease you? Is there any way to be stacking up any of these popular teams?
Yeah, I think even though the most rostered team on the slate, the Chicago White Sox, it's not crazy popularity for a Coors Field game. And we have them 12.7% ownership share right now on DK, 11.3% top stack odds. Is that a little high? Perhaps, but it's not anything that's totally insane. It's definitely not enough for me to want to get off them. And then on FanDuel, they're only picking up an 8% ownership share with the best top stack odds on the slate. So FanDuel, I certainly think that the White Sox are worth being overweight too. And on DraftKings, probably somewhere around even with the field, but they're the most popular team. So I think that's warranted. But this is where I think the Jose Berrioses of the world, this is where he really comes into play, because if you're going to stack the White Sox, which I think is warranted despite them being the most popular team, I think you're running into some trouble. If it's like, hey, I'm stacking the White Sox with Nola and Strider as my pitchers, well, a lot of people are doing that. But if you've got Berrios in the mix, just not that many people roster him. He's got single digit ownership. So this is where some of those lower owned pitchers come into play, because I do think these popular offense, this one particular popular offense, the White Sox, the ownership is warranted. You're muted, by the way. Oh my God. Ron would never.
Jordan Klein producing, shaking his head.
Well, was he the one who muted you, or did you mute yourself?
I muted myself. It was an accident.
Okay. It's all right. We forgive you. Live and learn. Does Sean V mute himself when he does shows?
People like Marquez. You can't like Marquez. Stop it. He has over a 6.66 ERA. Yes, the devil's number at home. Stop it. We do not like German Marquez in any way, shape, or form. God, you're trying to silence me, world. I get it. And then I'm trying to silence myself.
If the White Sox were insanely popular today, I think I'd be able to make a case for German Marquez, but the ownership's fairly spread out today. And the ownership was really spread out yesterday as well. There wasn't any individual spots that had insane ownership. And that's something that we really have to consider here is, while the White Sox are the most popular team on the slate, they barely have over 10% aggregate ownership. So I don't think there's enough leverage in playing German Marquez, even though, he's pitched a little bit better as of late. And his numbers are always going to be inflated because he makes Coors Field starts. The White Sox offense is always banged up. I just think it's unnecessary to get to Marquez today, though.
Yeah, I agree. One team I like a lot today, I'm curious to get your perspective on it, is Toronto. So Palante has not been good this season. He does have an extremely high ground ball rate, which can be concerning from time to time, but my God, he is getting just hit up in some spots. And I don't think it's that hard to stack up this team. The only guy getting over 10% is Alejandro Kirk because he's a catcher, and I get that. But you get these guys like Bo Bichette is 5%, Teoscar Hernandez sub 5%, Lourdes Gurriel 1%, Matt Chapman, tons of power 2%. pretty easy to just not do the 1-5 thing with Toronto. Go 1-7. If you want to throw in Biggio at the back half of the lineup, be my guest at 2,400. I get that they're more expensive than they've been in a while because, I don't know, they put up 28 runs on Friday. But how do you feel about Toronto in the landscape of this slate?
Yeah, so I like them a lot. And the reason why is even though he's pitched well this year, he's the 3.34 ERA, a 3.96 expected ERA, but there's a lot of firepower that's in this Toronto Blue Jays lineup. And he puts the ball in play a lot. He doesn't generate swing and misses, doesn't generate strikeouts. So when you got a pitcher with a 15.7% K rate going into a hitter-friendly park, and then also, a team in the Blue Jays that has a lot of firepower in the middle of that lineup, I think that they're very live to end up putting up a big number on Piante. And they're not picking up that much ownership either. We do have them being as a little bit positively leveraged in terms of the ownership relative to the top stack odds. They're not one of our teams that we have as most likely to be the top scoring team, which I think does make sense considering the amount of ground balls that Piante induces. But I still think that they make sense. And something else also, I don't know if you saw this, the run line for this game, Blue Jays -1.5, -110 odds. Kind of like that.
Lindy it. It's an absolute smash. You know what? That came from my video.
Did it?
Sure did. You watch Eric's Lindy's leans, lines, locks, lings.
What's the name of your video? Do you even know?
I was just stuttering through it because I thought it was funny. Just trying to not.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was funny. Definitely. Just totally forget how to talk for 10 seconds and then go like, yeah, it was. I did it on purpose. Eric is great content. You guys should check it all out. That aside, though, I also liked the Toronto -1.5 quite a bit today, which correlates with some of the same reasons I would like their offense.
There you go. It's just a terrible baseball team. So St. Louis without Arenado and Goldschmidt, that is. So I do like that team. Let's continue forth, my friend. We do have other spots to be talking about. I think we've got to look at some of these other stacks for the people who are making more than one lineup. I definitely am on board with you. I think that that's a good call with Colorado. I like that we're both there in a meaningful way. Let's talk San Francisco. I think this is a very interesting spot because Tyler Gilbert is so horrendous at pitching. I don't think that there are really words for his horrendousness. There we go. That's not a word either. But 566 expected slugging, just a 14% K rate with a 44% hard hit percentage. You get San Francisco out of San Francisco and into Arizona. I know a humidifier is a thing, but so is power. And Yerman Mercedes, Austin Slater, Darren Ruff. I know there's going to be a Jock Peterson at some point in time. I don't know when that's going to be, but can they do enough damage to warrant stacking them up before you start seeing some of the lefties come in?
The one thing that's an issue, though, is the guys that I care about are pretty popular here. We've got Darren Ruff, Austin Slater, Yerman Mercedes, Tyler Estrada is weirdly picking up double-digit ownership. I don't necessarily love him, but I think these guys warrant exposure, particularly Yerman Mercedes. He has a lot of power upside. He has outfield eligibility, so you can play him in 3 different spots. He's min price. But at the same time, too, as a 5-man stack, I think this team is going a little bit overowned. I think Tyler Gilbert sucks. But at the same time, too, you have to deal with this team being, the third most popular offense? Yeah, third most popular offense on the slate. And after Tyler Gilbert comes out of the game, a lot of those right-handed hitters are going to be pinch hit for. So it's hard for me to be really enamored with playing a chalky Giant stack when I don't think we're getting nine innings out of the hitters I would like to roster the most.
All right. I thought, considering they're super popular on this slate, we'd at least talk about them. A team that I'm getting to some pieces. I think Mercedes DHing might be pretty safe. I don't know, maybe not, considering you think Jock could just come in and be the DH in a random spot if need be. But he's a catcher, 2,200 with outfield eligibility, or 2K now. Is he 2K flat? He's 2K flat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could put some science behind this. In his recent starts, how many plate appearances has he been getting?
Well, let's see. 3, 2, and 4. He's 2K flat batting cleanup.
He's going to get pinch hit for at some point. He's a really good one-off for some power upside. I think the risk you just run into is if you make too many Giant stacks, there's too much risk for me to really want to do it, especially when they're this popular. So it's not a team to outright fade. It's a team to be underweight to, though.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm kind of decreasing some stuff. They were coming up a lot as one-offs, specifically Mercedes. I have a Mercedes problem. I don't know how many times there's been slates where he's been my highest owned hitter. It seems like it's a lot where he ends up being the one-off that kind of falls through the cracks, but happens more on these slates where you get McClanahan, Nola, Strider, expensive pitchers where there's an opportunity cost not playing them. And I kind of just want to play those guys except for not Nola today. So there's that. Anybody else that you find yourself stacking up in a very prominent way? I can kind of go through some of my exposures here as well, but curious if you're getting to any other team in a very meaningful way.
In a very meaningful way.
I don't know, Greg, just in a meaningful way. I don't fucking care anymore. Just go ahead.
Meaningful. No. I want to give
God.
I'm putting some thought into this. Very
Hit
meaningful.
the like button for me, not Greg.
Very meaningful. Great.
Hit it for our friend.
Now everybody's going to start downvoting the video.
They're fine. Shut up. They're fine. You're fine too, baby.
Thank you. I love your eyes. I said that on
you.
YouTube earlier also.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the thread got deleted because the guy I was responding to backtracked and deleted all of his comments. But here's one thing about this slate, and it's to answer your question also. I think there's a lot of offenses that warrant being overweight to the field to. The Dodgers, I think that's the team that warrants being overweight to the field to. The Rockies. But I don't know that there's any individual spots where I'm like, I need to have a ton of exposure to this team because the ownership's pretty flat today. There's a couple of teams, the White Sox, the Red Sox are picking up double-digit ownership. But by and large, the ownership is pretty flat today. And there aren't individual spots that really stand out way above the rest. So I don't have one team other than the fact that, the Rockies are my single entry stack and it's a team that I have more money on than other teams. But there isn't one team where I'm like, oh, I'm getting to like 15 to 20% of this team. Is there a team like that for you?
I'm getting to a lot of Dodgers. I probably should chill out a little bit here. Specifically, they're kind of a secondary stack that's showing up for me a lot just because it's hard to be able to pay up for all of these guys that you want to get to at the top of the order. That's for damn sure. But there are enough savings in terms of 5-mans. You get Trace Thompson back in there again, just a wraparound 9-hole hitter. Now has 3 home runs, has some actual pop. Like I think that has to be known that he's not just a regular 9-hole hitter. So I'm okay getting to some of him. Gavin Lux and Cody Bellinger continue to be under 4K, but what this really comes down to is I want to get to Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, some combination of 2 or 3 of those guys. And it's really hard to pay up for all of them considering they're over 5K. Freddie Freeman up to 6,200. How are you today, Mr. Freddie Freeman? My God, no doubt he's been awesome of late, but I can't find tons of paths to full stack them just because I can really only get to 2 or 3 of them if I'm going to play McClanahan plus Strider plus contrarian stack.
Yeah, and there is a lot of upside individually in Josiah Gray. Not that I think he's worth rostering at all on this slate, but the downside is there as well. He's been giving up a ton of home runs this year. So overall, we have seen 21 homers allowed by Josiah Gray in 17 starts. His last start before the All-Star break pitched against the Mariners, 5 innings, 3 homers. The start before that against the Phillies, 6 innings, 2 homers. So he has way more starts this year where he's given up home runs than I think he has more starts this year where he's given up multiple home runs than starts where he's given up no homers. And he's going up against one of the most potent offenses in baseball. It could certainly be problematic for Josiah Gray. The only downside is the opportunity cost. The Dodgers have a really expensive offense. If you're playing a lot of the Dodgers, you probably can't roster some of the best pitching options on the slate because most of those are expensive guys. So I think the Dodgers, another team that I'm with you. I think it's a team worth getting overweight to the field to. But it's hard for me to say, like, I'm building a lot of my lineups around the Dodgers just from the standpoint of I don't really like the pricing trade-off there. But I'll say once again, just to circle back on this, waiting on the lineup, but I'll commit to it right now. The Rockies are going to be my single entry team.
I love it. I love you committing to Coors Field. Way to take a stand in life, Greg. But they're low owned. They're low owned. Exactly. Kopech ain't that good anymore. Merck City, USA. Also, Teddy Wayman. Why does Eric look so upset? I'm not upset. I'm having a lovely time. It's more of the rapport that Greg and I have, where sometimes I get a little agitated with the man because I don't know. He puts me in precarious situations from time to time, but I digress.
Which
he loves
by
me.
the way,
I know he loves me.
Eric and I were messaging earlier, and actually, you might have said this too when we were on a phone call earlier. But you had said that you want nothing to do with this online feud. You're not going to mention on any of your content. As soon as you said that, it took me 3 seconds to decide that it was what I was going to spend a lot of time talking about today.
Great. Just
we'll see what
friends are for.
We'll see where it goes from here.
But anyway, Merc City, USA. Eric was the guy at recess that threw a tantrum when no one wanted Pokemon cards with him or wanted to play Pokemon cards with him. I'm assuming that's what he meant. Nobody knows English today because they were too busy playing meaningful sports. Well, there's only one Division I athlete, former Division I athlete who works at Stokastic, and it's this guy. So I'm just throwing it out there. No big deal.
I have a feeling that's not true.
Yeah, I am.
No, not you. I think there's other Division I athletes here as well.
We don't have another Division I athlete. Do you know how hard it is to be a Division I athlete?
Yeah, I've seen Alex fight before. Alex was a Division I athlete. Who else? Brody was Division III basketball player. Tom's tall as shit. He probably played.
I'm just saying, D3. You can be tall. You can kick ass. You can do the thing. But I'm just saying, Big 12 golf. Golf isn't a sport. See, I knew somebody. Corey Ballmer. Glad you could join the party. Why don't you take a seat?
But no, I agree. I consider it to be a hobby. I've gone over this before. And I played golf as well. I consider it a hobby, not a sport.
Sorry, nobody could guard you or me playing basketball either. It's fine.
I was terrible playing basketball though. I need to work on my game a little bit. I'm gonna start playing. By the way, I'm going to start playing basketball in the off chance that we do another meetup next year. That's the only reason I'm going to start playing basketball again.
I get motivation like that. I mean, I'm going back to South Dakota and I got it. Here we go. My filler arc. Carson Kelly or Gary Sanchez for last catcher in. Greg, you need a catcher. That's what I heard. Who do you like, Kelly or Sanchez?
Boy, do I. All right, let's see. Who do I have more exposure to?
Jordan Klein, you are just not great either, you know? Yes, golf is a sport.
It's a hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a hobby that takes a tremendous amount of skill and hand-eye coordination.
Thank you.
But still a hobby. Let's see. Like darts, another one. If you're really good at darts, that's super impressive. Doesn't make it a sport. He was Carson Kelly. Do you remember when Carson Kelly was like 30% owned on every slate?
I do, because he's batting first, and he's batting first again against a lefty, and he bats seventh against righties, and that's just the way that things are.
I can't advocate for Carson Kelly against.
I can't do it against Rodon.
So
I can't.
Gary Sanchez is the answer.
Yep, I like Gary Sanchez to go blast Ethan Small. I do like my Minnesota Twins today. I made the case for Ethan Small. It doesn't mean I'm not stacking up Minnesota. Let that be very clear. Byron Buxton. Love hearing knee injection. That's a horrible thing in my life. You knew there probably was going to be no Kepler today. There is no Kepler today. That's a bummer. But you get Garlick. He hits the ball hard too, so don't write him off completely against lefties. Just feel okay. I feel okay with the Minnesota Twins today. I won't lie. I have a little bit of them as well. But something you guys should get a little bit of is Odd Chopper right now. Head there. We talked about them a little earlier in the program, kind of built them in to the show. But the reason I do that is because I want to give you guys the best tools and content constantly. We have Alex Baker, who the guy works so hard, tirelessly, not just, one of the goats of the DFS community, but doing such great work here over at Odd Chopper, working on the projections, working on the interface there. So many hardworking guys like Sean Zahn, Eddie Lai, Steve Buzzard. I can't tell you enough how much time and effort goes into these baseball projections day in, day out, the golf bets day in, day out, or week in, week out, I should say. But you really got to take advantage of these tools because they're not going to be free forever. All you have to do is sign up with your email address over at Odd Chopper right now and take advantage of all of the tools for free. Everything is completely free on the page. You can group it by matchup. You can group it by game props you have interest in, the player props you have interest in, specific game lines by types there. You can go to betting resources, look at MLB odds, and shop for the best lines, regardless of whether it's a DKFD, BetMGM, wherever it is. Take advantage of that right now. Greg, anything that sticks out to you on the Odd Chopper board for today?
Yeah, a bet that I placed earlier in the day, it is Angel Zerpa for under 3.5 strikeouts. That is currently our number one ROI bet of the day. And I don't know how deep he's going to go into the game. And I definitely got burned yesterday because I bet the under on Zach Greinke's strikeouts. And you know what Zach Greinke did? Struck out a bunch of hitters really quick. Like I think the bet was dead in the second inning, if I remember correctly. But I just don't know that we're getting more than 4 or 5 innings out of Zerpa. He's only made one start in the last 2 weeks, and he pitched 1 inning. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to go deeper than that. Maybe he's been throwing extended bullpen sessions, but this could primarily be a bullpen game for the Royals. And as is, it's not like Zerpa, some great prospectors delivered great results. His minor league numbers this year, it's hard, or his major league numbers this year, it's hard to pull that much information from. He's only pitched 7 innings at the big leagues, but you go and you look at his minor league numbers, they're not that impressive in Double-A this year. 4.36 ERA, 4.17 FIP. The strikeout rate, 24.8%. That's whatever, it's serviceable, but you expect that to be considerably lower at the big league level. But you think that he's been giving up runs in the minor leagues. And I know we could talk about how bad the Angels offense has been as of late. It sucks without Mike Trout. There's a lot of easy outs in the lineup. But if Zerpa isn't getting these hitters out in Double-A, it's not like this is a Double-A lineup. It's still better than that. So I'll side with under 3.5 Ks for Zerpa. And I'm just really hoping he's not expected to work deep into the game.
Every time I see his name, I think of Team America. Zerpa Stan.
Oh, by the way, Team America.
Durka.
I very much want to watch Team America. This was
so good.
There was a funny story about Team America.
Really offensive, but it's really good.
Yeah. So there was at one point a girl I was texting, and she asked what my favorite movie was. And at some point in the conversation, Team America came up, and she said, she's like, I've never heard of that movie. What is it about? And so I thought it'd be funny to send her the video of the sex scene. She did not find it entertaining. I think that's one of the funniest scenes ever in a movie, though. How funny is that scene?
That was like breaking the ice conversation. You sent her that scene.
No, not breaking the ice.
You didn't do it. Okay. I thought you did it. You didn't send it.
No. I sent it, but it wasn't a break. Like, it was somebody I talked to. It wasn't like breaking the ice.
If you told me you could never die, I would have sex with you right now. I promise. I will never die. It's incredible. By the way, also another bet that I like, throwing it out there. We are going to be, never mind.
What?
Hang on. I was grouped, but still by Atlanta and Philadelphia Bats. Don't mind me. It's all good. I love that under of Zerpa. We're all about that life. But I will say, Nolan Gorman, you just trashed on my boy. Just trashed on him. Jose Barrios. You could definitely get just destroyed by a Nolan Gorman bomb. Plus 525. If he's going to start doing it, he's going to start doing it when he's a standalone entity here, batting at the top of this Cardinals order one time. I'm not drunk. He's going to do it. He's going to be the guy. I still have some of him in my lineups. Want to give him this specific shout out. He's down to batting 6th. It's just disturbing. But plus 525 for a guy with 9 homers on the season, has a massive power score on Fangraphs. I still believe, because when I'm not with you, I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time.
I like it. By the way, I'm just thinking about Team America in my head now. One of the funniest things in the movie. Do you remember when Gary's about to go out on his first mission?
Yes.
And the guy who's like the agent, he's like, if your cover gets blown and they take you hostage, you're probably going to want to kill yourself. So take this. And then he just hands him a hammer.
I got some super chats to catch up on, dude. It is just such an unbelievable movie. The only way to know if you're truly going to save your country is if you get down and we're not going to go there. El Negro Loco, $5. Our boy, the News God. Hi, it's your boy News God, or Nez God, because again, nobody's spelling today, and that's fine. I love you. I need to be a part of this meetup next year. Thanks in advance. You shall be, because we need some ballers, because you know what? There was a lot of white chocolate on the basketball floor, and it was not pretty all the time.
Matt Damon. Yeah. So there was also, I did notice, I think the cardio is lacking amongst a lot of, lot of people there.
Well, I mean, it was post-COVID for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like the lungs, they hurt. Just like, it's like the Jason Tatum effect. It took him a while to get back from it.
I was playing a lot of
basketball
games.
In years. That's part
neither have I. I was playing a lot of games back to back to back. And I noticed that I would get through like a few points into each game, and people would be pretty tired. No, George, the first 2-on-2 game that we played, it was you and I playing against
Ryan,
Jordan, and Ryan. And we were going to play to 15. I think once the score was like 6-3, Jordan's like, we're playing to 11.
It was so true. It was amazing. Like, dude, we're going to 11, bro. Dude, bro, chill. We got to do, bro, chill. My filler arc, $4.99. Thanks, guys. I'll take Sanchez starting to understand baseball. Also just read that 63 Earth can fit inside. So 63 Earths, again, nobody can spell today, can fit inside inside Uranus. So just a day of learning. That's great to know.
Yep, it is true. 65 of them could fit in Eric's, though. We've tested it.
Any other stacks you have interest in? You sick flying, you know what?
Let me think. What have we not talked about? So
honestly, back-to-back days. I think Adam's favorite show ever was the show we did together yesterday. And it was just him trolling me and not reacting to any of my bits and letting me hang myself. And I think your favorite show of all time ever that we've ever done is probably today, just making me as uncomfortable as possible and just making sure that every single moment you knew that you had the power to bring up the thing I didn't want you to bring up.
Oh, this is not even close to my favorite. We've done a lot of fun shows together. This is not close to the favorite. The Paul George one is my favorite.
Yeah, that was what set that's what set. I'll never forget. Hey, Jordan, ring the jock market bell. I will always remember that until the day that I die.
Because that's also what made us, better friends after that. It was good times. Exactly.
Lost a shit ton of money. It was not that fun.
Good time. It was amazing.
It was not. But you know what? Help me.
By the way, we just got the lineup in for the Rockies. There is no Jose Iglesias.
Oh, hold up. George Kirby to be limited to approximately 65 to 70 pitches. Don't play George Kirby.
Yeah, don't play George Kirby. Actually, I'm curious. Does he have strikeout props today?
Oh, you should short them immediately. Go to Prize Picks right now. That's what I'm going to do. Late breaking news? Man, I wish I had seen that. Came in 2 minutes ago. Kirby.
Let's see. What is his strikeout prop? Do we have anything up
Would you really? Oh, they took him off the board at Prize Picks. Look at them being progressive.
I think he was expected to have a pitch count, though.
I know, but not 65 to 70. I had him at 82. I gave him 82 pitches.
Yeah, he didn't have strikeout props up today anyway.
Okay. Just double checking.
Yep.
My due diligence.
We're doing our due diligence. We're doing what we should be doing in this situation. But yeah, there weren't strikeout props listed.
They're gone since 5 minutes ago. I never saw them on. I can go back and watch my video. I'm pretty sure I never saw George Kirby on the board today on Prize Picks. So you could only bet. So FanDuel has them up, but you could only bet overs on his strikeouts, not unders. Which, come on, what are we doing? Yeah. All right. But Colorado, Blackman, Sampson. I was way off batting second. Bryant, Crone, Rogers, McMahon, Grichuk, Hilliard, and Servin. He's going to be serving up some nothingness is what he's going to be serving. But how do you feel about this lineup?
Did you say Sampson instead of Hampson?
I said Hampson. I was way off. I was just making a joke. Like Hampsonite instead of Samsonite. It was kind of funny.
I thought you said Sampson. I'm pretty sure you said Sampson. I'm going to have to listen back to that afterwards. But I still like the Rockies. I think it's a good enough spot for them. See what the ownership looks like. Well, it's going to take a second to refresh it. But if anybody does see a spot where you could bet George Kirby unders, I'd be interested in that.
Very much so. Man, got some shit to update here. We'll say Nolan Gorman. Don't do me like this, my friend. Let's find this. Find this here.
What are you looking for?
I got it. No, I was just trying to figure out. I had something wrong going on with me in this, and not in like a weird way. But obviously, I have to redo a ton of stuff because no Connor Joe in that lineup. That's kind of the main thing that was screwing with me. I was like, what is happening? Oh yeah, he's not there. But you do get Bryant DHing, batting thirds. That's decent enough for me. I'll be okay with everything I'm looking at. I'll be all right with it. Elias Diaz
also not being in the lineup is a little annoying.
Yeah, it's pretty darn annoying because he can actually
be the most rostered catcher.
You love those catchers.
Oh, damn right I do. Elias Diaz has been absurdly good as of late too. He has not had a game with less than 10 fantasy points since July 11th.
Seems good.
It's not bad. I need 8 fantasy points in that game.
Seems pretty darn good to me. Greg, we're kind of reaching the end of our boarding walk here. Everybody hit the like button for Gregory, for myself. It's been an eventful day here at Stokastic. It's been an eventful day in my life. I'm excited to get to the grindstone. Check out Odd Chopper. Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks out every single day during the week. Excited to be breaking down all of that great content for you. Giving you guys some advanced stats, exact looks into every single best bet on the board using amazing tools and actual amazing things. I don't even know what else to say. I'm just trying to make sure Yeah. Jordan Klein. I love you. Greg, any final words for the people as we get out of here before lock?
Nah, that's going to do it for us. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out Eric's, whatever it is that he's calling it right now, Eric's rundown, the best video that we have that gives out picks on all the internet.
Thank you so much for just succumbing to my wishes and being the co-host I needed today. Jordan Klein, thank you so much for producing per usual. I'll see you in about 2 hours. Looking forward to that. I'm Eric Lindquist. Until then, you stay classy, San Diego.